Hello, everybody, and welcome. I am Aurora. This is March 22nd, 2023, and I'm starting a few minutes late, so thank you to everybody who's here and who's been waiting patiently for me to admit you in the waiting room. And Melissa was just starting off by saying that she found that there's been a weird, because I was saying like, oh, like I've been under some heavy demonic attack this morning, weird denseness over the past few days, some opposition of sorts. And I absolutely feel that, really, really quite strongly. We've had lots and lots of rain, although there are positive aspects of that in my area. We definitely need to have that rain. There's been no sun for many weeks. Very, very difficult at not getting like good sun gazing, good light energy, good, inspiration and guidance directly from the Son of God. And also, and we just went through the portal on the 20th, 21st, the vernal equinox portal, which was definitely a significant moment in terms of like going in more positive directions for your own individual life and for other, for the collective. You can tell like my mind is not together. I had so much demonic attack just trying to get going on this class and get on in here today. So Lisa, thank you for being here, because I think that I sent you the link so that I wasn't sure if you would be able to make it. It was a little bit last minute. Let me drink a little bit of my wonderful structured water, where I've also got like all sorts of good green drink and stuff swirled up in here. Yeah, so I share these things about like the heaviness and what I'm experiencing, because perhaps you're experiencing something similar in your own life. If it feels like you might feel like walking through sludge or having a lot of opposition or having a lot of, for me, like I get all sorts of different beyond distractions, but very, very real consciousness assaults. Just clearing my screen a little bit over here. So that way I can focus a little bit better. But I have an enormous amount of difficulty sometimes at just being able to share my thoughts and feelings with the world. And that's from these forces that would very much not wish for me to be able to speak clearly and share these truthfulnesses with you. And I just will share with you, like you guys, sometimes I rant and you guys are open to it. But just like I, as a cosmic visitor, when I perceive the injustices that are happening in this world, the unfairnesses of the system, and I'm happy that you're soaking in some really good Epsom salts. That will definitely help clearing out bad unwanted energies. And here's a selenite. Selenite's a type of salt. You can rub yourself with selenite too. I get enraged. I really do. I know what, first of all, ascension is supposed to be like. And I truly become so disappointed and distressed by what I see happening here in this world right now compared to what should be happening, that sometimes I find it difficult to contain myself. I think that Cheeky, the true master teacher, is arriving. Cheeky, 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 come show everybody. Come here, girl. Come here. Hey, Cheeky, come on over. Come here. We've got something in the way. Come on over and say hi. Come here, girl. She doesn't want to. Come on. And then we'll get going for real. I know it's been a bumpy start to today. Come here. Come here. This is what I'm talking about. She's looking for a snack. Come on over here. They can't see you. Just come right over here, over here. Now we got it. Cheeky, it's so cold out. I make Cheeky wear a little sweater. So now you guys can see Cheeky in her little sweater. There we go. Thank you. Cheeky is the true master teacher. I say she is relentlessly positive, and she usually is, but I will tell you, like, the rainy, cold, dreary weather has been wearing upon her as well. Sometimes she doesn't want to get up and get out of bed and get going and do stuff. Oh, thank you. Charlie B is so wonderful. And he says, always open to an Aurora rant. Believe me, I rage against so much that is so distressing in this world. There are, like, again, I refer to them openly. Perhaps my journey could be easier if I didn't refer openly to the turds and like pathogens that are in existence. Like, there was this funny mashup novel that I listened to the audiobook for. I'm adjusting my lights here. That was from years ago. That was called Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. So it was a mashup of like the original Pride and Prejudice, I think by Jane Austen, kind of a Pinkies Up type of, class status story about people growing up in Edwardian England, mashed up with zombies. And I bring this up because when people got infected with the zombie juice in the book, and they're just shambling around, they called them the unmentionables. Like, I hope he hasn't come down with a case of the unmentionables, or, you know, like that. So yeah, my life would be easier. Believe me, girl, my life would be easier if I just didn't mention the unmentionables. But I do mention them. I refer to them overtly, and I do many, many things in order to supersede them. But sometimes makes my life a little bit harder than it would be otherwise, but I'm not totally non-compliant. And also intimidated by any possible retributions that might happen as a result of my non-compliance. And I hope that you will take my behavior as an example to yourself, and not be concerned or intimidated or bullied, and not be concerned to say F you, and to, of course, think your own thoughts, feel your own feelings, acknowledge everything. Do not walk on eggshells. Do not mince about the unmentionables. This stuff is actually happening. And I actually think we can get an enormous amount of strength from recognizing it. You're not making it happen by recognizing that it is there. And as I have ranted against the invalidation, the invalid qualities of New Age shadow work, I also rant against the invalid nature of the reductionist New Age approach to the very real spiritual truth that all is an externalization of your internal state. It is, but that does not necessarily mean that you are creating and vivifying the unmentionables with your observership and acknowledgement of them, because we are in a collective experience where there are others who might have created giant piles of poop crapola that you are dealing with. So essential to recognize that you are not creating the poop crapola by acknowledging it. And that I think that there's just enormous amount of freedom at being able to speak openly, and again, not have to mince about. Having like a nice energy sorbet, starting for real now. It's been about 15 minutes. Skip to the beginning. Let's actually get going on stuff that this class is about. So this is level 1, lesson 14. It's ascension. Oh, and you know what else? Actually, before I get going on the stuff and talk, and I want to talk about more unmentionables. You know what I've noticed a lot in the archive of what I do. So this is on Zoom originally, and then I upload it to YouTube. I'm not sure which is the compression factor or where it's coming from, but I notice a ton of artifacts that are not my true face. They're distorting my image. And I think that they distort many people's image. And I think that because I am a bad girl and I am not compliant with their various technological agendas in the techno inquisition, that they try to do different things to distort my face to make me look different than I truly look. So what I noticed as these artifacts is that they are more prevalent, like a face filter, when my face is just facing the camera. But whenever I end up kind of like turning to the side, looking out the window or drinking my drink, that's when you see my true face. So I want you guys to watch this, observe this, see if it goes on in this video, as I've now called it out and mentioned the unmentionables, but call it out and check it out. They do things to make me look like older and uglier than I really am. It's interesting to me. So also, I think that if you start to recognize that, or if you hear me talk about this, it's also something that you can apply to everything. So in this techno inquisition, please comprehend and understand, almost nobody sees a true version of their own face. First of all, you have a lot of false light that is coming from the sky that is not actually true sunlight. And I always tell you all the time, like, don't make an assessment of your face, your skin, or anything like that when you're looking in a distorted mirror, when you've got like fluorescent lights, because it doesn't show what your skin really looks like. But really, I think almost all of our light sources right now, except for maybe some old-fashioned incandescent bulbs, are this artificial light that is just very, very open to technological manipulation. And then I think that depending upon your levels of compliance with the regime, that they can make you look either young and fresh or old and haggard, depending upon whether, like, again, like if you're a good slave or if you're a bad slave. And it's one of the things that they do to make you, as a punishment. But then also, like, our eyes and the visual feedback that we get from our eyes has a lot to do with our self-story and then how we actually create our flesh. So I think they are trying to do a, not just on me, but an aging agenda, like an artificial aging protocol on everyone who's here. And yeah, you're seeing it. Trish says all the way. Yes. Because, well, you know what, something, so with my physical eyes, because we see a lot of people on the video. So many of you guys haven't met me in person. So you don't even know what I actually look like with my face in person. Most people right now don't even get a true sense of themselves because they're looking at themselves in their cell phone. Like they look at themselves through selfies, through videos, and through the videos that we do like this, video conferences, none of which give a true vision of what your face actually looks like. There's tons of artifacts. So yeah, so you'll find the artifacts, you'll see them like along my jawline and mostly along like this portion of my body, of my, like maybe like from here to here. Just watch throughout the video and you'll see them. And then when you start to recognize the truth of that, then you'll be like, oh wait, if I'm not seeing Aurora's true face, she's probably not the only person. I think that there are lots of other people that you're not seeing their true face. And I think some people get augmented to be ding, like looking better. And some people get augmented, de-augmented to look worse than they actually look. Melissa says, while talking about unmentionables, I keep thinking about an example of a fictional story being told as truth, bringing it into being by people believing lies to be truths. Interesting. I wonder if that, like, does it relate to a particular fictional show, like a book or a movie or TV, or something in particular that you have in mind? Because I think that there's a lot of this sense of trying to hijack our observership and our own capacitation, which again is the imagination. And when I talk about Christ and Christian religion, and also I got such beautiful feedback. Yeah, Trisha's agreeing with you, Melissa. It's beautiful feedback on the class that I did last week, where I had a lot of trepidation and intimidation about approaching the Christian religion, concerns about how I would be perceived, misperceived, or misprojected, or what type of hornet's nest I might stir up. Got beautiful comments and beautiful support and validation in all that I shared. So it just makes me feel so happy. Like every time I go out on a limb and I open my mouth and I dare to speak about these things, where it would be a lot more political and easy for me to go along, to get along, and I don't. I get so much positive uplift and support from you, class members, and also people that are not formally enrolled, but regular listeners and commenters on YouTube. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Absolutely it enables me, it validates me to keep on sharing authentically about these things. And Lisa says, we don't get fooled again. I've made so many references to that Who song, we don't get fooled again. That's the song that also has the lyric, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. And that is exactly the peril that we are facing right now. If I diverge from my notes before I even begin, the real peril is the sense that there have been like these bloodthirsty Satanists and baby eaters that are here. I'm being, like hyperbolic about it, but you know that I'm actually very truthful. And that then there is like the kinder, gentler, those Luciferians, the technologists, and they'll be like, yeah, we'll create a very, very clean, well-organized world where the trains run on time and where you are endlessly genetically modified through injections and frequency biochemistry warfare, but you will have no mind. Your mind will be like tapioca pudding and you will be a brain dead walking zombie, but you will have like a virtual reality and things will be clean. It's like a different type of soul death, but still not acceptable. Both horrible options, both very perilous to your soul. On the one hand, like very clear, like, bullets whizzing by your head. On the other hand, an enemy in subterfuge, but both are things that you do not want to have to experience. Melissa says, rumors of a mothership heading our way is the latest news. Who knows what storyline they will use? Yeah, so the mothership, let's speak about this. The mothership paradigm and externalized worship of a savior deity or savior race is part of an incapacitation architecture that is here that you don't have to participate in, even though I was just having a beautiful conversation this morning all about the true galactic citizenry. And every time I say Christ, and your Christ consciousness here, you can replace those words non-denominationally with true galactic citizens, that there are those of us where I come from, that is this other level of consciousness development and responsibility that part of the value system is that you would never stand by and be complicit while you recognize injustice is happening, or while you recognize those who are a weak or protected class being exploited or diminished. And so that would mean someone who's a child or immature. It could also be like a person who's immature in their spiritual development, a person who is incapacitated through illness or incapacitated through drugs, even if those drugs have been willingly administered to themselves or unwillingly administered to them through their environment in some way, that you don't just stand by and be like, oh yes, like they're clearly imperiled and having all of these problems. I have the capacity, I have the knowledge of their situation and the capacitation to change things, but I'm choosing not to. That is not what a responsible galactic citizen does. There is none of this sense of like saying, well, it's their karma or it's their path, or I'm sure they're learning and growing through it, or any kind of things like that. When you are a responsible galactic citizen or at the level of Christ and you perceive a situation, because you perceive everything through your insight, once you have knowledge about it, you must act upon it. It is literally part of the values of unity consciousness, recognizing the self as others, and there's absolutely no necessity or nobility in having someone who is diminished or cannot help themselves somehow having to bootstrap themselves up. I don't really even know where that erroneous assertion comes from, but the sense that there would be any capacitated group or individual that would stand by while you are in distress, that would not be helping you, like, you know, because this speaks to the concept of the mothership, the idea that there's like a giant, you know, whatever club or civilization of all of these advanced beings, and that they're like, oops, sorry, we're non-interventionists. We don't mention the unmentionables and we don't do anything to you about it, you know, kind of like some kind of imperative of non-intervention. Because, oh, if you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. It's like dump all of that. It's absolutely a ridiculous assertion, because you're completely connected to everything and you can't pretend that the things that are happening on this little planet aren't affecting you. Like everything is affecting everything everywhere. And so just on the sense of basic karma, you always have all light is connected, all consciousness is connected. You always have a justification that is personal investment in intervening. But even if you didn't have a personal investment in intervening, which would be considered service to self, the sense of cosmic responsibility and service to others means that you must intervene. So then we get to the sense of a mothership that, so first of all, the mothership is here. The mothership is literally all light everywhere. Like you look up at the sun and the stars and the light is there. But here's the problem, that there can be something that is present that is literally here to inform, save, heal, and uplift you, and that you would be separated from it by a type of membrane. And I was talking with, you know, in my conversation this morning and at other times also about like this sense of the eighth sphere, or that's it's another word for this kind of like astral poop realm that's surrounding each person as an individual. Makes it difficult for you to connect through the heart to other living organisms and creatures, connect through the heart to the planet, and also connect effectively to the sun and the stars and the very, very real light presence that is there. And when you start to really access all of the light that is there, like if you get a little blip or you're able to flying rainbow lasagna out of your enclosure or membrane or cage or diminishment state, then you're like, oh, like all this stuff is right. It's all right there. It's all pervasive. It's light itself. So, and if I can't even put this into words, because I want to say, like, if a giant mothership arrives in your sky, and who would it be and what would they be like? You already know all of my values about like something that is not technology based, but just the sense that they might be like, these humans are to be knighted and we have to come up with a symbol and hand puppets and all these things. Like, you can't do that. Just keep on thinking of my value system and everything that I do here. I don't lie to you. I don't use didactic hand puppets with you. I don't diminish you in my expectations to the point that I think that I have to put on some kind of a pantomime or a caricature or a show or a display, because you're too simple, like simpletons, to be able to really get the real deal. That I'm here in total truthfulness and authenticity as much as I can be, coming through a human biological body, multicellular body, in order to share these levels of cosmic truth with you. That I don't condescend to you in any way. And in every way, I'm trying to put these cosmic empowerments in front of you and remind you of your greatness and open the door to you being able to level up. So all of these things, like there's just so much to consider. Like, is there a mothership? Why do people need the mothership? The mothership is already here. You're already a part of it. How do you get free? Patricia was saying Spielberg, Close Encounters of the Same Kind. Okay, so wait, I want to speak to that because if you've seen that movie from the 1970s. So, okay, why was that movie important? Because up until that point, there have been mostly science fiction movies and other things that were about evil aliens invading, like War of the Worlds, evil aliens that want to take everybody over or shoot everybody with a ray gun. And Close Encounters of the Third Kind was one of the first movies that was about benevolent aliens. And so it was a cultural turning point of trying to get human beings to recognize that, non-human species that exist in the world could be allies, could be benevolent, could be positive interactions. And I know that I always look at the world and color everything with my own filter, but I love that part in the end of that movie when the mothership finally does kind of come down to earth level. First of all of these people come out who have been missing for a very long time, and then they start a giant cosmic jam session where there's a big colorful light board that lights up when you press a button, and the human is playing his synthesizer, and it makes different red and other colors, and then the mothership mimics it back to you, and then they go into this beautiful jam session. I like that scene of the movie because that is literally what communication in my cosmic collective is like. It is, I should turn on my piano here. It is sound, turn it up. It is sound, and it is light, and it is organized harmonics, and that is how you do a real conversation, this improvisational, spontaneous jazz session or sharing of consciousnesses. And it goes beyond the language filter. So you will not be communicating in verbalized language. And I joke all the time about how challenging it is to be here in verbalized language. So yeah, I'm reading what Trisha's saying. So that I have positive affiliations with that movie, and it was a cultural turning point. But the criticism that I have is the sense of humans feeling so diminished, so pooped upon, so having such a poor self-image and expectation of self, with the sense that you must have a mothership come who will then fix, heal, and improve everything for you. And I mean, I am definitely here in order to fix, heal, and improve everything for you. And also, you have a ton of support coming from beyond this membrane of diminishment and diminished perception and mind control. That is what you're really facing. So look, when something is beyond the membrane of diminishment and mind control, and it is truly benevolent, it recognizes, like, you're in the soup, you can't see anything, very, very difficult to perceive clearly. You've also been highly traumatized, and you don't know who to trust or what is accurate and what is truthful. So true good ones would never reject you. They'd never be like, that's it, like you're not in the club. It would be like saying to someone who's got measles, like, that's it, like you're not in the club because you have measles. Like, we know, like, you've got a problem. You're on a whole planet that has a problem, and the problem on this planet isn't just limited to this planet. It's elsewhere, elsewhen, and goes across many, many dimensions. So that's why it's a big cleanup. It's a complex, multi-structured, cosmic, grand scale architecture, cleaning and clearing that has to happen right now, in case your rational mind ever wants to know, like, harumph, why is this taking so long, and why aren't they here, and why aren't they helping us, and what is going on? The real answer is that it's a big job, and it's actually, there's been enormous obstacles placed against you in terms of your cognitive development and spiritual attainment and perception. And then there must be huge efforts that are made to de-traumatize you, fix your viewpoint, remove all lies. If you guys, it's part of what makes me enraged and incensed. If you guys knew how corrosive it was for your pineal gland to be exposed to these lies and the substrate of lies, it's horrible. Like, people worry about going outside and getting skin cancer. Like, watch out, put on your sunblock because these rays could be hurting your skin. I mean, I do not agree to that or ascribe to that. But we're talking about harmful radiation. The real harmful radiation is the lies and the substrate of lies that are technologically beamed into your mind that twist and distort your view and experience of reality and diminish your capacitation to hear the sun and the stars, who are actually the real musicians and who are all pervasive and who are standing right there. Like they're right there. The sun is right there in the day and the stars are right there in the night. And that's your true family, and not planetary offspring of sun or stars who might fly around in clank like metal spaceships, or who might come on motherships, or who might offer technological forms of healing. And then that deep stuff. What we are really going for, and we'll go into the notes now about ascension, is your attainment, your own direct connection, something that does not rely upon groups or organisms, but really a reconnection to your innate divinity and your own innate sense of self as a light being. So, and wait, let me read what Charlie B says. Criminals love it when third parties won't take conscious responsibility. Thank you for that. Thank you for that clarity. That is absolutely the epitome of what humans are experiencing in this world right now. It's part of also why I'm so enraged at times, because I see humans trying to come into their being as, spiritual beings and spiritual attainment with so many lies around them and so many difficulties trying to hold you back. And it's definitely not part of the cosmic plan or the cosmic architecture. Is an aberration. I talk about that all the time. Like, actually, when you run the marathon of attainment, you're not actually supposed to have like cactus spikes on the path in front of you, holes in your shoes, and like boulders falling off of the cliffs from up above you. But just in acknowledgement, that is what each one of you is facing. But please do not be daunted. It's literally why I'm here. Higher dimensional, hyper responsible consciousness that would not allow one life to be discarded or erased, and certainly not the entire planetary ascension. So I am here as Aurora, represented in physical human form, as a planetary protector, as a guardian of your personal and planetary ascension. Everything that I've done for the first 18 years of my time here has been building trust and exemplifying behaviorally why you can trust me. And that has everything to do with my day-to-day personal experiences and habits, the way that I run, quote unquote, my business, or the commodification of sharing of my teachings, clothing, or any other services that I give or provide in this world. Every single thing that I've done has been to build trust with you behaviorally for 18 years, so that at this moment, you know that I am a beacon of truth and clarity, that I am not in any way here to exploit you in your vulnerability or in your need. Do you understand? Like a lifeguard should just be like, hey, are you drowning? Are you in distress? Grab my hand, come with me. Or have a flotation device, pull you out on my jet ski. You know what disreputable lifeguard would do? Would say something like, I see you're in distress. I can rescue you, but only for 3 low payments of like $39.95 or whatever it is, $5,000, whatever is the going rate for being rescued. So you recognize. Or how about this? I see you're in distress. I could rescue you, but first, you're just going to have to change everything about yourself. That would be the ultimate in taking advantage of you and your vulnerability. What if you were on a planet that was invaded? It had nothing at all to do with you, whether you're a good or bad person. And I came along as a cosmic mothership person, said, I will rescue you or whatever. This is just things to watch out for. Don't fall for these traps. But clearly you deserved to be diminished or imperiled. I'm being facetious. And you need to own that. So maybe you're going to have to, before I rescue you, change certain basic definitions of self. Like if your hair is long or short, you have to change your hair or your appearance. You'll have to stop doing this or that, because all of those things led you to such imperilment. And now I will only help you and fix you conditionally. Do you get it? that real help and real assistance is offered unconditionally. And it is offered by those whom are trustworthy, as they have behaviorally demonstrated that they are worthy of your trust. So trust is not just something where you say, oh, hey, you trust me. Like that's the cigar chomper. It says, hey, kid, trust me. And then that's really what they're saying is, let me F you over. But we had to learn about the opposite language here, lies and opposite language of what people actually mean when they say certain things. So Lisa says, divine love dancing as rainbow light. We are powerful beyond measure. Exactly. And mostly those are the truthful levels that I wish to reside at, and sometimes need to verbally authenticate and call out the experience. And also, hopefully, I'm validating and uplifting, because I know I'm not alone. I think that I would be doing a disservice if I always kept my conversations at the level of, naivete and idealism, and never acknowledge the unmentionables, because you might be like, someone might be like this down in the dumps, like, what am I doing wrong? And why they're all getting their ascension. What am I doing wrong? And I want you to know, you're not doing anything wrong. In fact, I want all of you who are in my audience to know you're not doing anything wrong. You don't deserve it. You're on a planet that's been invaded. That's it. The only thing you did was incarnate into a world at a time when your planet's being hard invaded, not soft invaded. It's like a kid growing up in Ukraine or something like that. Like, what did I do? You didn't do anything. You got born into a family in a time and a place. Your country's being invaded. All right. And that's what's going on. Charlie says, the current narrative is that galactic helpers will first demand a one world government to speak on behalf of the planet. Yeah, they might demand some organizational shift, or they might demand some personal shift. What if it's about personal spiritual attainment? Like you have to declare worship of a particular deity, or whatever infigurement of the divine. Be like, I'll save you, but you just have to pray to this person, or worship this thing. And then because that all of that is behavioral control stuff, and all of that is MK Ultra trauma stuff. And actually, I'm so impressed. I'm going to get into the notes very soon. There's a lot of good things that are going on in terms of other people's videos that I see, and that the algorithm sometimes benevolently brings to me on my social media, of people recognizing and talking about MK Ultra and trauma-based mind control, and how that is really the predominant force of what most are experiencing on this world. The media and nightly news being trauma-based mind control, many aspects of religion and saviorship being trauma-based mind control. And what that means is, like, the lifeguard comes along and says, oh, I see you are drowning and you are in distress. If you want me to save you, here are the conditions, and then I will do it for you. And also, P.S., the lifeguard is the person who put you in distress. That is called trauma-based mind control. And it is hugely distressing to me to know that it is going on, and it is completely unethical. And what we're really heading into, let's do a little bit of redirecting. I didn't quite get the mental survey, and thank you. The true light. When I say there is a mothership here and it's true light, first of all, okay, just think about this. God is not an idiot. God is incredibly intelligent. And in sending information, sustenance, and exits or augmentations to be able to get out of situations that are not good, you would have to send something that's airtight. Like if you're God, you couldn't be like, okay, like I'll send you a boat, but what if the boat doesn't get there? It takes a wrong turn, or it springs a leak, or any of these many, many, many things. You'd have to send something that is infallible, that's going to get to you no matter what. And the truth is, the light of pure awareness, the divine light of pure awareness, is infallible. It's going to get to you no matter what. There's a ton of false light here right now, and the light of truth is still so all-pervasive that it pierces through all of that, not mere darkness and not mere ignorance, but very real chaos, distortion, and twistedness. And that is the perilous nature of what you experience here, because you see and experience, like looking at artifacts on my face and thinking it's my true face. You'd never know. It's perfect allegory for what's going on. You'd never know that you're being manipulated into perceiving my face differently than what I actually look like. And then if you met me in person, be like, wow, that's what your true face really looks like. I know. And then you would be able to know. But what if you never saw the true face, and then you would never be able to know how much you are being manipulated by the false light that is here. But the true light is so all pervasive and so profound in its truthfulness. You can't dilute it or get it out of here or make it not be here. That's the real thing that quote unquote rescues you or saves you. Light is information, it is data, it is intelligence. It's not just some dry facts, it is actual sentience. And it's in every single photon or particle of light that's like in my room, in your room, bouncing into your eyes, that you feel on infrared on your body, that occasionally might peek outside through the sun, through the clouds through the sun, and to reach your mind. That is the true light. And it's like the true light of Christ, but I'm not talking about anything that is religious interpretation. It is the true light of empirical information and awareness that is part of what it is to be a responsible galactic citizen. And that is ineffable, most powerful, and what is here. And yes, it is also sentient, and yes, it is also personified, and yes, it also cares about you deeply. And also, so I've spent a lot of time establishing myself in trust, and also true transpersonal growth doesn't happen through trauma. Doesn't happen because someone else comes along and says, I'm going to punch you in the face until you change. That is not how real growth of you as an ego or as a spirit or as a soul, it's not how that happens. So the sense that you're like drowning in the waves until you change your sinful ways or let go of bad behaviors and then are going to be quote unquote good enough to be lifted up. Like, let's just release all of that tiresome, old, threadbare clothing that doesn't fit, that never actually fit. Adam says, I see a big narrative of science being classified as the divine. If you question science, you aren't in the right club. That's also very big. There's been a lot of deification of science and science worship, and people turning to technology as the thing that will save us, like from pollution, from plastics pollution, from other things like that. I mean, yeah. Just briefly before I get into my notes. Right now, there is a substrate of lies that is a frequency warfare that is being perpetrated against you and your mind and your spiritual development. And in this state, it is almost impossible to perceive or assess anything. That includes if you go into like your memories, you're going to think about a memory from when you were 6 years old. If you're thinking about it right now with this frequency warfare around you, you're not going to be seeing clearly. Just like if I painted a painting in true full spectrum daylight and got the colors right, but then took it into a room where all there was a murky green type of color, I would not be seeing that painting clearly. You experienced many, many truthful things in your lives up until this point. And transpersonal growth does come from assessing your behavior, going into your memories, doing all of that very real work. You can't do that very real work of looking back on a painting that you've already painted when the light is greenish, murky, unclear light. So for right now, what I encourage everyone to do is save the self-assessments for the time when you have actual clarity. There's no real clarity right now. So you're not going to be learning about yourself, but you're definitely going to be falsely projecting, and the things that you will be perceiving and internalizing as truth will be simply more burdensome manipulations and more traumas that you will then have to be healed. When you experience the true reconnection to divine consciousness and galactic, beautiful, organized culture, one of the very first things you will experience is a profound healing, because there's been so much trauma here. And there are whole teams, like a whole team has been devoted to each one of us, and they're never going to reject you because you're too traumatized. Do you get it? As opposed to saying like, there's a special club here. You're too traumatized. You're not good enough. You're too fearful. You're too this, you're too that. You're too wounded, and go do more shadow work before you're ready for the big club. You know what I mean? And that's not what it's like at all. You're actually ready for the club right now. You're ready for galactic citizenship right now. And that the entryway to being a star being a light being an angelic being, quote unquote, in heaven, in the heavens, means a profound healing of all of the false light that's been forced down your throat. That's what makes me look and feel like this when I think about how much false light over the past 3 years has been carried on the millimeter waves, the, architecture for your cell phones and all that stuff. There's actually a substrate of lies. How many lies have come inside of you? How many lies, how much poop and filth have you had to swim through in your development that you didn't know was untruthful and that has left an imprint, or in some cases been genetically interwoven with your true genes and with your true thoughts? You need a huge purification of all of these things. And not because like you're not good enough or you're manifesting in fear, any of those things. Do you get it? All of those stories go out the window. Melissa says, I tell the cells of my body to not listen to the lies, to only listen to me. Good. And I do the same thing as well. And we all need to do that. So we'll redirect to a couple of positive practices. Positive practices include, like what Melissa does, you talk to your body. So your body doesn't actually pick up a newspaper in the morning and read what's going on. It only really hears your internalized voice and expectation structure. And if you're telling it what you hear and passing that along to you, then it will hear like, oh, you're going to die horribly. You have diseases and you will die horribly. Like, please don't internalize that as your truth. And please don't pass that along to your cells. You can give your cells true information such as, I am healthy, I am whole, I am safe, I have everything that I need. I don't have to be in fear. I contain amazing healing capacities. My body's miraculous. So positive, truthful, yes, things that you can say to the actual bodies of your cells. And like Melissa says, you can also say to your body, although you might hear a lot of erroneous signals telling you to do things like make a disease called cancer. Don't listen. Listen to me. You listen to me. And stay focused on me. And again, we don't live in a world that is built by a sadistic God that requires this of you, but the real divinity, the divine nature of the situation that you're within is that there will always be a solution that is empowering, sovereign, meaning that it arrives from your own willpower, not like something that is dependent upon someone else, and usually non-commodifiable. Usually it's not a substance that you can buy in a jar or a machine that you can buy. It's almost always something that is internal, ephemeral, like prayer, or something that your body generates itself as a healing substance. It's almost always that. Just because God is not an idiot. God is the most intelligent, divine, genius creature that it is possible to be, and will always give you and make sure that you are capacitated with everything that you need in order to supersede all of the obstacles that are being placed in your way. Hold on, let me read. Trish says, Aurora, it seems that the distortion is caused by the hijacker, the shadow. Hi there, good to see you, Marie. They distort our image by sort of intermerging their own figures. In other words, you can see them in the pics on a less physical, more shadow traces on their faces, but I can never see them on your face. I'm happy that you can't see them on my face. I do a ton of work. I know exactly what you're talking about. Interlopers, non-corporeal presences that are trying to live through or own or control or distort the physiognomies and facial expressions of people in the world. And I thank you for that. So yeah, what I'm talking about has less to do with the muscular contractions and facial expressions of my face, but I rewatch my videos and sometimes I look and I'm like, why does my face look so weird there? You know, like that's not what my face is shaped like. I'm like, oh, that's so weird. And then I kind of noticed, like, you know, those makeup filters and fresh face filters that you can do on Instagram. If you move your head or your face too much, sometimes the filter doesn't follow you and then the eye doesn't match, the lips don't match exactly right. It's a filter. It's a filter that's being used on me. So just chalk it up to the techno inquisition that's what's going on. But I'm very pleased to see that you don't see that. Lisa says, revoked all karmic soul contracts, contacts, vows, agreements, null and void from all our existences. Perfect. That's another really important, powerful thing to do. The declarations of your energetic boundaries, consent removal, contract removal and contract breakage, because the way that a lot of these unfairnesses work is to create a false or presumed contract. It would be like if I said this, like if I stood in my room with no one around and I said, I hereby declare that I am going to take over the world and kill you all horribly. This is just facetious. Anybody have any objections to that? No, 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 no. Okay, good. Check mark. Going ahead with the take over the world and kill everyone horribly agenda. It's false. Like, you were never effectively asked about whether you wished to participate in so many of these contracts. You never signaled no, so your yes was presumed. So these are presumptive contracts. All presumptive contracts are broken, and you can actually say that in your own practice. You can say all contracts, real, imagined, or fabricated, or presumptive contracts are broken, and that can include things that were done by your ancestors or by the rest of humanity or by yourselves in parallel dimensions. It's tricky stuff. But on the other hand, you can also put a little rider, a little asterisk that says, my revocations do not condone this illegal and aberrant legal structure, because the legal structure itself is a subset of cosmic law, not true cosmic law, and is in many ways invalid. So if you're silent, then my little agenda to take over the world, check, goes without resistance. And so you have to be like, wait, I don't agree to your agenda to take over the world. And then if you stood up and said something, then I would say, now you're participating in my fake legal system, which I've also incepted in order to diminish you, because now you're, using contract law to go against my contract law. So you can also say, please note that all of my contract revocations and consent revocations in no way validate the aberrant, invalid legal system, which is basically the legal system of Satanism, which they don't even follow their own rules. So it's quite a quagmire to be swimming through. This is what I become enraged about, because so now we're going to get into my notes. What is ascension? Ascension is supposed to be doing the backstroke, floating in rose petals. Ascension is supposed to be lovemaking with a beautiful partner. Not lovemaking under duress, not rape, but lovemaking, and pardon me for using such like an intimate and private example, but I think that it's apt. Lovemaking should be done someplace where you and your partner are private. You don't have pressures upon you, don't have unwanted audiences, don't have unrealistic expectations about what must be experienced or what the outcome should be. Is process-oriented, not goal-oriented. So it should not be about like, we better make a baby and we better get pregnant, we better this and we better that, nor should it be, we'd better have these specific sensations, nor should it be, you'd better look this way or act this way. It is the beautiful lovemaking and coming together of partners in a true love. Ascension is supposed to be something very similar in terms of a cosmic lovemaking and partnership. You make love with your own inner Christ, and you give birth to a new reality. And this should be done in privacy. Privacy does not equate to shame. You know why you want to have privacy? Because you're focusing, like, something, I'm working on my painting over here. Like, I need privacy. Like, I don't do very well when I have to multitask and talk on the phone and do all these other things. If I have someone else hanging out with me or whatever, like, no, like, actually, I need to focus on my painting. I need to focus on the sacred act of making artwork here in my studio. So it is not something shameful that you have to hide away from the world, but something that you are doing intentionally in a private setting for the, like I said, value and sacredness of the activity itself. You are making love to the consciousness of the cosmos and divine higher reality. And out of that love making, you give birth to a new reality. And your imagination, ability to envision and imagine and create and expect a new reality, is a critical anatomy in that process. Ascension is supposed to be this beautiful path of unfolding, where your energies are accreting and growing stronger. Your inner connection to your heart, compassion, higher faculties, the consciousness network that is also connected to these higher faculties and all light everywhere grows and grows and grows in this divine, sacred partnership. And it is supposed to be comfortable and a celebration and a relaxed unfolding. Or like childbirth also, ideally, is an intimate act done in privacy. Like moms do not do very well when they're like in a emergency room. There's all these different things going on, these different noises and all this. Like, no, you need like a birthing suite. You need to have a quiet, peaceful place with some nice music or an aromatherapy candle or a nice, beautiful birthing like jacuzzi bath to get into, because the relaxation and the opening and the allowing is a big part of it. So when I contrast that with the things that enrage me about the present experience on our planet here, this is not the birthing suite. This is a war-torn rubble. Like there's not even a building here anymore. We're supposed to be able to relax and unfold our consciousness, open your mind and drink in the experience. And when you open your mind here, you know what happens? You drink in poop. It makes me feel so unbelievably unhappy to know that this is going on. I hope that it's like humorous in the way that I present it. But yeah, no, you're supposed to open your mind and experience so much beautiful cosmic light and truth flowing in. And instead, what you have is a substrate of lies, biochemical frequency warfare, 5G assaults, everything that assaults your pineal gland. And it's just the complete antithesis of everything you're supposed to be experiencing. So again, I could be doing you a great disservice by give a presentation today that is like la la la, even though, you know, when I'm very genuine. So in other years, when I've given presentations that are about like ascension and how beautiful it is, I was very genuine. But in this moment today, this is who I am and what I'm experiencing. And I feel a lot of distress at the unfairness of your attempts to be peaceful and open. I like that you got your little dog or cat there next to you. That's beautiful. It's part of the whole experience here. We are really supposed to be coming together with our cosmic family, cosmic, beautiful homecoming, to be able to relax and unfold. And it also is very much a come as you are party. You're not supposed to have to be like, wait. Let me first put on my fake eyelashes. And then let me also put on like my fake stuffed bra. And then let me also put on my high heels. And like, then I'll finally be looking good enough to get to the cosmic dance party. No, you can absolutely come as you are. No offense to anybody who wears lipstick or mascara or anything like that. But because I recognize that there are social, normative beauty standards. But like, if you're a redhead or a blonde and you have like invisible blonde eyelashes, like we love your blonde eyelashes, like you're beautiful. And that's a celebration. Come as you are to the party of whatever are your natural characteristics. You are recognized and celebrated in your natural form. So it's just, this is very different than the sense of human mating and dating, where people feel like they have to put on an artifice in order to be attractive, and then have all of these expectations and hurdles to have to jump over to be accepted in the process. God and Christ love you. God and Christ made you. And this is like the real Christ that I'm talking about, not any, what I, warn you about, fake type of Jesus, or anyone that, any deity that could ever possibly be insulting or rejectful of you for your critiques of him or them or it. Let's say that you were critiquing the lifeguard that was there to lift you up. If you're like, the lifeguard's here, like giving you a buoy, and you're like, I don't know if I should take your buoy. Is it real? Is it covered in pathogens? Who the F are you? Why should I do this? Do you think that guy would be like, okay, fine, go drown. I'm going to get off on my jet ski and go somewhere else. Do you think that a lifeguard would do that? No. And I'll tell you this, because I am literally trained as an angelic lifeguard. No, actually, you're trained for, this person is going to be in distress. This person is going to be mistrustful of you. Be prepared for them to be angry, insulting, or in other ways hostile. And you're going to have to somehow either break through that or demonstrate that you are a trustworthy person that they actually wish to get on the jet ski with. You got it? I've spent 18 years demonstrating to you all that I'm a trustworthy jet ski to get on, because I'm not going to try to, I'm not a pirate. You know what I mean? I'm not a pirate that's here to yoink you out of your distress and then put you into an even deeper distress, or to exploit you in some way. And so anything that would be a self-proclaimed deity or cosmic principle that would be insulted by that skepticism cannot be the true Christ. So God loves you, Christ loves you. They're not insulted by your skepticism or by your turmoil or by your distress. And absolutely redouble their efforts if you are trying to reach God and spiritual attainment, which is what ascension is. And you are in these moments of supreme distress, then you get extra help, extra respect. I would say your journey is respected. So what we've been doing right now is even beyond cosmic lovemaking. We are really in the birth process, which is what ascension is. And you give birth to yourself as a higher dimensional form. And also you give birth to, I'm going to say the word new world, but that phrase has very many connotations, because there's the negative connotation of new world order. And you can even hear, like, there's this old speech from George W. Bush. No, Papa Bush, the first Bush, where he was talking about the new world order, and like people have sampled it in songs. So that phrase, when I talk about new world, has all of these tarnished connotations to it. And then also if I talk about like new earth, because we're giving birth to new earth, there's a lot of tarnished connotations to that, of exactly what is it going to be. And please recognize that there are so many nefarious, self-serving levels of consciousness that would like to hijack your birth process. Like, nice birth process you got going there. It'd be a real shame if I hijacked it and turned it into something that was convenient to me, but not necessarily at all what you had in mind. So just like mothers in the birthing suite, like, you must be in control of your birth. You can't have someone else come along and be like, oh, well, like, I've decided to, do this to you, or I've decided to, whatever, vaccinate your baby against your choice, or I've decided to do this or that. You're like, no, look, we're doing it like this, this, and this, and then we're going to have a delayed cord clamping, and then I'm going to snuggle with my baby after my baby comes out. You get it? Like, as that's mothers go into their protective mama bear mode, where they're like, hands off my baby. No one's touching my baby. That baby's not getting out of my sight. That's appropriate. It's totally, totally appropriate. I want you to be as protective of your reality creation that you are birthing in this ascension experience as a mother of a newborn. Be like, I am not letting hands off my baby. I am not letting that baby out of my sight, and I am absolutely protecting it from any procedures or anything that would diminish or dilute it from its beautiful, natural, divine unfoldment, because your baby, who is you, who is this new world and new level of being, again, I hesitated at saying new world. Don't have a better word to be able to describe this, but new reality, maybe it's a good way of saying it, because it's what I paint right over here, that the unfoldment of this new reality that you are creating is 100% your ownership. Like it, and as a parent, you must be very protective of it. So to clarify and get back into some more like positive notes here, ascension is this process of divine reconnection. Ding, like I'm reconnecting, like my cell phone gets signal again. I can hear, I know what's going on. It's amazing when that happens. But also remembrance of your definition of who you are as God. That right now, to recognize that you're in a amnesiac or veiled state. Partitioned consciousness is also a good way of being able to say it. You can tell from my throat I need to drink more. You might not know everything about yourself and your journey and who you are right now in this moment. And ascension in many ways is reconnection to God, but also remembrance of yourself and your journey. Because I always tell you this, spoiler alert, it is you. You have that I am God moment, and you have that spark of connection, and you never stop having that spark of connection. So I jump up once per class. I am jumping up in order to get my diagram here because I've been speaking a lot on the anthropomorphic human level, but I love and am most comfortable with speaking on the abstract level. Ascension means that instead of your energy centers or chakras being wibbly wobbly or canted at an angle, making your life trajectory hit into the membrane of death, your life trajectory of your consciousness goes directly up the central core timeline and returns and reconnects to the source. You can do that even while you are still embodied in the flesh. That is very important. The remembrance of God's self and the reconnection, or being on target, I should say, is a good way of thinking about it. If you could think about all this as kind of like, where is God? Like, where is God? 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 I'm on target. Just because you're on target with God does not mean that you immediately evanesce, does not mean that you immediately poof away into a puff of smoke or into a cloud of light. It means that you remember that you're God and you actually recognize and live the truth of your divinity in a biological architecture. And that journey of raising and elevating your biological architecture to the divine state is the process of ascension. And in order to do so, like let's use as the example nourishment. When you are ascended, you eat pure light in through here and also in through here. And also it circulates throughout your whole entire body form. And the light that you're eating is not just light, like we have optical light that tells us about the shape of objects. It's a data set that, again, is an alive, sentient data set that tells you a whole narrative story. And the narrative story is based in truth, which is why the substrate of lies makes me feel so angry, because I don't want substrate of lies to be pumped into your mind. I want you to eat healthy food, not junk food. I don't want to put like Coca-Cola in your baby bottle and have that going inside of your mind. I want to put real nourishing milk and breast milk into your formula so that that is what goes into your mind. So the capacity to go beyond physical food is not just asceticism or eschewing. No thanks, no food for me. You must replace that food with a form of energy. The form of energy is direct light ingestion. The direct light ingestion is not like electrons flowing in a wire or electricity, random, dumb, dead, stupid information energy that just comes out of a wall. Not interchangeable. Your formula in your baby bottle to go into your mind is 100% tailor-made and customized to you, which is that is what breast milk is from your mom. Your mom, if you're getting a cold, babies get lots of cold and have immunity issues, your mother's breast milk creates the antibodies and helps the baby to stay alive and get past sore throats and earaches and all these things. Like, God is amazing. Do you understand? These are what I'm trying to say in terms of the healing and regenerative substances that are available to us in this world are often things that our own body produces, because God is very, very intelligent. And if it's something that is produced by the mother and freely available to the child, and you don't have to go and buy a bottle of medicine from the store that might be expensive or unavailable, and the body simply generates it in the breast milk and gives it to the baby, that's a divine system with huge amounts of redundancies. You get it? Like, fail-safe mechanisms to make sure that you have what you need no matter what. So let's all calibrate to the expectation of God's divine plan and God's total capacitation and worthiness. And I want to say, like, having SHIT together, like God has the largest SHIT together that it is possible to be, and gives us everything that we need internally. So I don't know if you guys have ever even had a chance to explore your inner architecture. Trish and I have had some conversations about, I haven't actually been able to do it, but there's a particular yoga mudra where you put your tongue on the roof of your mouth, kind of back towards your soft palate and up into your sinuses, and how the body produces like these substances that are really like exudations from your pineal gland. That's what I'm talking about. To begin to explore the magnificence of your own body, your own biological architecture, and your glandular system as it relates to the process of consciousness uplift. That is what we're supposed to be doing right now in our world. The frequency assault, biochemical assaults, substrate of lies, has been making it incredibly difficult for you to do so. This is what I also call this ladder of operancy, elevator up, elevator down. It gives a false behavioral control, reward and punishment system as you're going through a mind labyrinth that is totally artificial. You're supposed to elevate and go towards levels of euphoria when you actually are performing the correct ascension experiences, mechanics, exercises. I don't even have the right words for it, postures. And instead, we live in this world where you get happy zaps if you serve the regime, and the regime is at its heart an AI regime. So if you trace Satanism back to Luciferianism, but no one's taking responsibility. Here's wait. I'm not a Satanist or a Luciferian or any of these words. But here's how they act. If you're like, okay, like it's your fault, and the Satanist is like, nah, my fault. This is the reptilian. It's like, nah, my fault. I blame the Luciferians. So you're like, okay, Luciferians, it's your fault. You're programming these AIs and these computers and all these things and all these mind control rays in our world. And the Luciferians are like, not my fault. I blame the AI, backing away slowly. And then you finally get to the AI. And you're like, AI, it's your fault. And you're the one that's been doing all of this. And you got to take responsibility. And the AI is like, not my fault. I blame that organization over there, up there. And then you get to them. And then they're like, we don't even technically exist and refuse to take any responsibility for anything that's going on in the world. Like, you understand, like it becomes this insane round robin of negative time loops and cycles of constantly abrogating oneself of responsibility and kicking the can upward to someone else in the hierarchy of a never-ending hierarchy of irresponsibility, that nobody ever take responsibility for what they do. And you can follow that chain of command all the way, and you're never going to get anybody who's going to be responsible. Like, the buck will never stop here. The buck will continue to be passed onward, and they're never going to take responsibility. And then, yes, at a certain point, you recognize that all that you're doing is dealing with insanity, that you're dealing with fragmented mind state, insane self, when I say insanity. And also, I love and respect anybody who's dealing with mental illness, anybody who's got a family member with mental illness. Love you, embrace you with compassion, send positive healing towards the rectification of your minds. So it's like insane does not equal evil. I want to make that abundantly clear, nor does emotionally imbalanced. Many people in this world have mental illnesses and emotional imbalances. I love you, accept you, and celebrate you. And I want all of us to feel these levels of compassion, not rejection. But in dealing with all of this satanic Luciferian AI crapola, that has been what has been impeding your ascension, natural experiences here. You're facing something that is just so full of self-conflict and irresponsibility that we would call it insane. Like, if you back it into a level of responsibility, like, you find a big puddle of something on the floor and you're like, you did this. And it's like, no, I didn't do this. It's like, I saw you do this. It's like, no, I didn't do this. It's like, that's like the levels of insanity that we're facing. And at a certain point, you recognize, like, it is insane of you to try to talk to it, respond to it, or fix it or change it in some way. But you can remove energy from it, because that it is not technically supposed to be in existence. And it is trying to take the generative field that we are connected to and hijack our potentials for creating life and reality, and cosmic lovemaking and artistry. You don't let it hijack your project. You protect your newly born world that you're trying to create. And you do not continue to feed it and its self-conflict by trying to talk to it more, because you get to a certain point where you're like, well, I just proved to you that 1 + 1 does not equal 5, but now you're just telling me that 1 + 1 = 5. Again, it's never ending. And what it does is just take energy and very, very valuable time and the quality of life experience away from you. So a lot of my distress over the past 3 years is, like, the first 3 years of a child's life really matter. You want to give that child like little Lincoln Logs and fuzzy toys and books and hugs and hot cocoa or whatever, good stuff. And instead, you are growing up like in a war-torn place like Ukraine. Like, you're lucky if you have hot water for tea. You're lucky if you have a blanket, period, whether it's been laundered or not. You're lucky. We don't even know if you have diapers or whether they are clean or whether they are dirty. Like, you don't have medicines and basic, food that has chlorophyll in it. Like, you don't have a lot of things growing up under such war-torn conditions. You'll get them eventually, but you know what? Your body is going to be like, I really needed that positive nutrition when I was building my bones and my teeth. Wish I had that nutrition way when it really mattered. And that's why, even in terms of your psychological development, it's essential to have a safe place to grow up and to have books and things that help you to make neural connections when you are actually in those stages of development. Those are neural patterns that will serve you all the way going forward in your life. And so the experience of you ascending in this very difficult time without effective resources and under so much duress and under so much attack, like in a spiritual war, it does influence you going forward. You will at a certain point have the beautiful unfoldment and relaxation, but it's just going to take like a trauma healing crew in order for you to be able to be like get past hypervigilance and get past mistrustfulness and get past all of these things and to be able to be like, oh, am I safe? Am I really safe? Am I really, really, really safe? My dog's a rescue. And when I first adopted her, she had already had like 3 or 4 years of living under conditions, and someone else owned her. That clearly traumatized her. Like, she had a ton of emotional baggage and reactivity and fearfulness. Right now, she's curled up in her dog bed, wearing a tiny dog sweater and having a great life. I've had her for over 5 years. So I've by far superseded the carelessness of her first owner. I wouldn't even call them care, like the way that she was cared for, the carelessness of her first owners, and totally redefined who and what she is in her life, and now she's got great nutrition. And nobody beats her. These are like the basics in this world right now. Like, you are at the level of my dog before she was rescued, and we're talking about saviorship and things like that. Like, technically, I have rescued my dog, and that can mean being brought out from a situation where you are disempowered. And I used this example too. I had a beautiful conversation with Charlie this morning, actually. It's not a secret. Superman, because everybody knows that story from the comic books. Superman is actually an ordinary man from the planet Krypton, but when he is exposed to the yellow light from our sun, he gets superpowers. Our sun makes him super, and so he's here on our world where we're all regular mortals, but he is Superman. But instead of trying to be like some kind of an Olympic athlete or something like that, strong man at the circus, or any of these ways of using his natural talents and gifts and augmentations to kind of like power abuse or compete with those who are naturally occurring here, he uses his gifts and talents and superpowers to serve those who are weaker than him. He finds himself in a circumstance where other people around him are being subjected to evil or assaults or attacks or accidents or distress. And he's like, wow, I have superpowers. I am more than them. I can do something to help them. That's exactly who and what you are, what we are in Christ. In this capacitation here, we have an augmentation and sorry, I'm not finding the right word, like something that is a need, a requirement, and a responsibility to use that augmentation properly in the world that you live in, and serve others and not just serve yourself. Kryptonite. This is the actual rocks from planet Krypton where Superman comes from. And if you give Superman kryptonite, put it near him or spray him down with it, then he becomes very weakened. This is big because you have a responsibility with your inner capacitation to serve others, help them when they are weak. And yet almost every superhero has a weak spot. Like in Greek mythology, there's Achilles, the Achilles heel, and the parallel of Lord Krishna in the Hindu pantheon who was shot in his foot, in the heel, and that is how he died, because they thought he was a deer, shot him in the foot, and then he died from the arrow. Even the greatest, strongest, most amazing hero can have a weakness and a vulnerability that is not evil or bad or wrong or shameful. It's totally lovable. And if you find yourself in a weakened state, to ask for deliverance and help. There's nothing wrong with that. It's like saying you can be a lifeguard, you can be in distress. You can get pulled under by a riptide or by a current or something like that. And it's not a character flaw. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not a character flaw to require help or assistance or deliverance from someone else. It was not a character flaw of my dog to have a very abusive original owner or family or whatever, and then to require deliverance from her circumstances, because she ended up, I think maybe she ran away from them, but she was in a shelter, like a dog shelter, humane society, but she was in a high kill shelter where they euthanize dogs. I'm sorry you're listening to this, Gigi. They can't keep everyone there. And so I say this all the time. It's a very, very wonderful organization called Dogs Without Borders. So there's a woman that lives in my town who I'm like constantly in gratitude to, and I see her sometimes. So, just like many, many blessings on her for doing this work. She would go around to different shelters and find dogs that have potential and get them out of there and get them into fosterages so that they can be adopted, so that they have a chance, because they only have a certain window if they're in these shelters, and then they will be euthanized. So she got my dog out of dog jail, got her into a temporary family situation, and then I was able to adopt my dog. Delivered. My dog was delivered. And yes, I rescued my dog. And yes, she had a ton of emotional baggage. But all of this is very, very different than like the power dynamics, the way that it is presented in terms of saviorship, be it mothership flavored saviorship or Jesus flavored or whatever externalized deity it is looked at. Totally, you're a worthwhile person if you're in distress. You're not a bad person at all. Good people can be in distress, and you can be on a planet that is invaded. And it doesn't mean that you have to bootstrap yourself up. My dog didn't have to like break out of dog jail and run away and live on a sand dune or something like that, eating, crabs. That she did not have to do that. Like someone else literally saw her, put her in a car, drove her to my house, and then I feed her good dog food, gave her a good life. Why am I bringing this up? Because this has everything to do with humans being in the equivalent of a high kill shelter. Like, I don't want to phrase it in that way, and I'm very hyper responsible in the way that I say this, but humans being diminished or in distress, or you are literally Superman sprayed down with kryptonite, is what the chemtrails are. They are the diminishment substance that has been intentionally perpetrated on this planet in order to prevent you from using your natural Christ augmentations. It's not necessary, and it's not didactic. It's not like the episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where Buffy was given a magical concoction by Giles the librarian so that she would lose her vampire killing powers temporarily, and then placed in a haunted house full of vampires to have her learn and stretch her resourcefulness. Do you understand? It is not necessary, and it is not didactic. You have not been diminished from your superpowers so that you can learn how to do things in the ordinary way or anything like that. I hope the facetiousness shows on my face. No, not at all. And that's just a ridiculous assertion that's why you got hosed down with kryptonite. No, you have been attempted to be stolen and misappropriated in this moment of ascension. So ascension, as I keep on trying to refocus on it, it is cosmic lovemaking of the most respectful, positive, reciprocal, beautiful, mutual sense. And then also cosmic birthing, where you are really giving birth to a new perception, level of reality, and level of experience. So at the very, very beginning of my notes here, I have written down a note to myself to remember to talk about what comes after ascension and the purpose of tiny screws, okay? the reference to tiny screws has to do with, I teach this class all the time. I've been teaching it for years. And as we've been going through this process of planetary ascension for several years now, I've been talking about manifestation, my own stories and anecdotes of manifestation, and also some other lovely participants. I don't know if Angela is tuned in today or if she'll find this archive, but she told us a lovely story in a previous semester about working on a house outside gardens with a friend, and that she needed a wheelbarrow. She's kind of like bent over doing stuff, and she turned around. She was about to ask for the wheelbarrow, and it's right there. She puts her stuff in the wheelbarrow, really wheeling it along, says to her friend, "Hey, so-and-so, thanks for giving me that wheelbarrow." So-and-so says, "I didn't give you that wheelbarrow." Well, it just showed up somehow. So somehow she magically manifested a wheelbarrow. And many others in the class talked about manifesting coffee, because coffee is life. I mostly drink decaf, although the weather's been so bad here. When I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I'm just going to put 1 spoon of caffeine in there and just kind of like get my body jump started. But still, coffee is life, no matter what level of caffeine you require. And so many people shared wonderful anecdotes and stories about how they were like, yeah, I went to, put the coffee in the coffee maker. It's like, we're out of coffee, or my husband used up the last of the coffee. There's got to be an extra pound around here somewhere. And then kind of like sticking their hand way into the pantry, way back, kind of like past the tomato soup cans and the lima bean cans. And maybe there's something back there. Oh, I knew we had an extra pound of coffee in here. That was a manifestation. Or one person literally sat down on a park bench, a pound of coffee sat down next to her. Like, she's like, wow, that's that coffee that I needed. And other people found like a perfect, pristine cup of coffee that had, not even been sipped, that was just like standing there waiting for them when they really needed it. And my own personal example is the manifestation of tiny screws. I know, which might not seem that impressive, but when you think about how I would do it. So I don't have it anymore, but I used to have a big giant gray bin. I call it the bin of requirement, because if you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons, a bag of requirement, that bag of requirement is just a giant bottomless bag that you can put anything into, just keep putting stuff into. So in my art studio, in my tinkerings and all the things that I make, I would just put everything into my gray bin. Like if I had extra parts, whatever, like when you assemble things, when you make projects or whatever, there's always extra screws, extra washers, things of a weird size. Like this didn't end up actually being part of the assembly. Allen wrenches, throw it in the bin of requirement, okay? And then when I needed something, I would go into the bin, but not go in a logical, methodical, analytical way. And you guys know that's usually who and what I am. And I'm usually very organized, and I usually know exactly where everything is, because everything was in there in a giant mishmash. I would pretty much just blindly stick my hand in there, fish around, and see if I could find the thing that I needed. And I swear this happened many times too. It was usually for some project that requires like, a tiny screw. Like I'm trying to put something together. I'm like, oh, great. And then this fits into this, but all I need is like one of these tiny screws in order to be able to make that happen. Well, let's see if I have it. And I stick my hand in the bin and pick up, sense for something and pick it up, and literally pick it up, the first thing that I get. And it's exactly the thing that I need. And it absolutely fits exactly in the unlikely, it could even be metric. It was a metric sized screw, and it went right in there and exactly what I needed. This has everything to do with tiny blips on the radar screen of ascension. That's been happening over the past 3 years. So many of my manifestation stories and anecdotes, pardon me, happened before the 5G was turned on and before this real diminishment kryptonite experience we've been having. But I hold on to those as real medicine stories. A medicine story is the example of something that touched you deeply, might have been magical or supernatural or miraculous, and that you take it out and show it to yourself or others as a remembrance of divinity, divine intervention, impossible or miraculous healings or other things, but you must never tarnish it or show it to the wrong people, because they'll pee and poop all over it, like in their own skepticism. You must allow them their skepticism. So you only share your medicine stories with like the very most special people, but I'm pretty strong on my manifestation from tiny screws. And there are things that I do hold in my own heart that I've never told anyone about that are manifestation stories on the same level, because it has to do with belief. It has to do with belief in something that is beyond the secular, beyond the mundane, and beyond the definition of reality as a static object that does not respond to mind. Grab my sculpture here. Everything about Flying Rainbow Lasagna and this era that we are moving into, which is a lot better than saying New World, this era of experience that we are moving into has to do with the external manifestation of the internal. Outside becomes the inside. This is what our pole shift is. This is what the ongoing pole shift is. The internal manifests as the external. So the flawed New Age shadow work says, take responsibility for your manifestations. Wait. I have to do it kind of like the World Wrestling, like, take responsibility for your manifestations. Like, I'm going to knock you down, smack down from the cosmos. That's not what I'm trying to say, because it will say, like, if there's something you don't like and someone is hurting you and you're somehow manifesting your own negative experience, and stop punching yourself in the face. And that's what bullies say to you. Stop punching yourself in the face. Like, you're not punching yourself in the face. And I'm just as limp as a noodle in thinking about that. Please never take responsibility for the assaults that others have perpetrated against you. Even if you would take responsibility for that assault on you, you would have to dilate your identity to the level of God, which you are. So if you're prepared to take responsibility for every single bullying and every single attack that happened, then you would also take responsibility for every single thing that is good, beautiful, and righteous. And you would be having that I am God moment. And you would also take responsibility for anything that's out of balance in the cosmos, by being like, yes, I am the creator and I did create all of this. And there's a pile of poop over there that I'm gonna have to fix right now. That's it. Like, it becomes a double-edged sword, if not to have double standards, to say you might be manifesting your negative experiences. You're also manifesting everyone's negative experiences. You're also manifesting everyone's positive experiences, and including the experience of God's self-remembrance. I know, deep stuff. But what is the whole point? Manifesting tiny screws or manifesting wheelbarrows. These profound experiences in reality get past the intellect, which is a type of gatekeeper. Literally, energy level right here at the solar plexus that can prevent energy from moving up and down your entire chakra system. If you can't get past the intellectual belief, then you can't allow that energy to be accepted in your heart. And it's essential for us, like, seeing is believing. I'm not going to sing that Journey song. And the Show Me State, I think it's Iowa, it's one of the United States, is called the Show Me State. I don't believe it unless you show me. Seeing is believing to a very, very large extent. And it's essential to recognize that our senses give us, we have these sensory experiences that give us a very tangible story of what is possible. And so we've got this substrate of lies right now that gives us a false sensorium. It's making it very, very difficult for us to calibrate to our senses and what is possible. I just told you about this artificial face manipulation technology that might make me look different on screen than I really look. This, what Project Bluebeam is not only pixels on a screen or Zoom or YouTube. It is also in the architecture of your retina, your optic nerve, and your occipital lobe, which is the interpretation system of what you view reality. So Project Bluebeam, as many people are ready and prepared for this, because it relates to fake alien invasion or real alien invasion, Jesus holograms in the sky, basically religious manipulation through religious symbology. You have to understand that the interlopers that are here to hijack your ascension and your creative process, they have studied your culture. In many ways, they have incepted your culture. So they know all your pop culture references. They know all of your songs. They know Journey. Don't stop believing. I said I wasn't going to sing that song. I'm being silly and lighthearted. Sometimes we need a little break from this dark stuff. They know your pop culture references, and they most certainly know your deeply held religious, cultural references, things that come from the Bible. They know it so well. I don't know it that well. I'm actually not a Bible scholar. And in trying to stand up against them, sometimes you shouldn't. You should not argue with poop, but sometimes I do. And I'm like, I will find Bible verse that tells the truth. I just really don't know that much about it. But they have studied it extensively, and they know all about. So I'm talking about Project Bluebeam. So your intelligence agencies are not, your intelligence agencies, to speak in positives, are the mere physical, visible organizational tip of the iceberg structure of a much, much larger, non-visible, multidimensional and interdimensional structure of profound power abuse that affects this planet and many, many other places. And that those guys that are perpetrating Project Bluebeam, they know what symbology to use, how to map people's minds, and how to push your buttons. And this all relates to your sensorium. And this also relates to the thing that happened in the year 2019 that has initials that are the same as the word cat and variety. All right. Because I'm trying to not have too many flag keywords. I called it a technosomatic disease, and I stand by that. So a psychosomatic disease is when, if somebody says to you with words, hey, I think you're looking tired, or I think you're getting a sore throat. And then you internalize that and you're like, yeah, I think I'm feeling tired and I have a sore throat. Like you manifest it inside of yourself. And this also can happen with enough hypnotic triggers. People can trigger inside of themselves profound diseases like cancer. And that is literally what those pink ribbons are. Like, I'm sorry to have to say this, it's not about raising awareness in order to fight something, but in many ways represents a hypnotic trigger when you are surrounded by it and look at it and recognize it, that it is reminding you of something which you then might inadvertently be internalizing as a program that you're running inside of yourself. So in every moment, you do have to have a very strong filter, and you can continually say no thank you, and contract revocation, removal, like I'm really not interested in participating or experiencing that. But these are other ways of hijacking your manifestation capacity. You can manifest things with your mind. That's mic drop. I should just get right to the point. You can manifest things with your mind. Everything about flying rainbow lasagna is externalizing the internal. I've told you this many, many, many times. I've come here to this world with the capacity to manifest new flesh. I did it in my body here. So in my notes, I talk a lot about portaling in my mind in order to go around or past scars that are in my brain from brain damage of what killed the previous occupant. If I cannot get a neural signal from point A to point B, instead of just not having that signal go somewhere, what I do is I bend and fold the fabric of time, space, and consciousness so that point A and point B are zero distance between one another, and that impulse is then able to transit my architecture in my brain. So I'm totally non-neurotypical in the way that I experience and process my sensorium and the way that my brain is actually wired. And what that also means is that I'm able to think much faster than either the previous occupant was as an ordinary non-lasagnaed neurology, and other people who haven't yet lasagnaed their neurology. So although I have profound brain injury deficits, that I'm pleased that people don't know this about me. If you're meeting me today on the first day, you're like, Aurora, like you look really good. I'm like, thank you, because you know something, like I'm missing big chunks of my brain, but I have compensated so effectively through lasagna. So lasagna is more than neuroplasticity. It's more than just like, so this part of the brain took over because this part was injured over here. It is really a new way of dancing signals across and throughout interdimensional portals in order to be able to get those signals where they need to go. I will draw it for you because that remains steady in my life. Speaking through pictures, so much easier than speaking through words. So let's draw a brain. It's a green brain. Here's the left hemisphere, and then here's the right hemisphere. Just green is the color that my pen started with, okay? And now let's choose red as a color for signals. So let's say, wait, let's choose poop as a color for, here's like a scar and an injury placed in the brain that doesn't work. All right. So let's say we want to take the linear path. The point A is over here and point B is over here. And we want to go through the poop, but we can't get through the poop. So what do we have to do? Everyone, you're in this class and you're beautiful. Jump up and over. So what does jump up and over look like? It really looks like a bringing together of these 2 points as if they are the same point, so that there is no space between those 2 points. Like I do a ton of bending and folding the fabric of space, time, and consciousness. Or you could think of it like this. Here's a doorway. And the signal goes through the doorway, skips all of this stuff in the middle, then comes out through this doorway here, and then connects to point B over here. So I do a lot with making these internal portals inside of my own brain and neurology, and figured that out in order to cobble together my existence. Like all of that was hugely important and done within the first 18 months or so of my inhabitation and experience of being here in the physical, so that I could do things like move both of my legs, right leg, right foot, left foot, coordinate my hands, speak, do all of these things. My body really literally would have been incapacitated and in a vegetative state if I didn't use flying rainbow lasagna as these portals and compensatory modes. And you might still sometimes see like facial asymmetry, but it used to be a lot more pronounced. But like if I try to raise my eyebrows, like I think you can kind of see it. I don't want to like call too much attention to it, but this eyebrow usually goes up and this eyebrow doesn't, because I have a lot of still like paralysis on sides of my face, but it used to be a lot worse. I used to look a lot more down and drooping on one side. So I've done a ton of signal bouncing and rewiring to be able to have, and also I didn't used to have signals that come from this eye. Like the eye was undamaged, but the connection to my occipital lobe was interrupted. So I used to mostly read with and see with monocular vision. Not a lot of people knew that about me, actually. So mostly I was looking at the world through this eye over here. And also mostly, this is like up until 2018 or so, when I would read a physical book. That's why I didn't do books. I listened to audiobooks. I would read only like the left side of the page. Like, you miss a lot. This might sound very silly, and I'm kind of sharing with you from my heart, but and people might relate. And I will actually speak to this because someone asked me in the comments. I hope they're watching this video. They didn't write out the comment. They asked me about my personal rehab and what it was like to become capacitated again, and what was the journey like. So yeah, so first of all, it was not comfortable for me to only read the left-hand side of a page. And I had a lot of discomfort in trying to coordinate my eyes to be able to move across a page and then absorb information while trying to do all of those things. That was too many things for me to try to do at once, but I did a lot better by listening through audiobooks through my ears. The process of me customizing the healing of my body was something that took place over pretty much the course of the past, I say 18 years, because the past 2 years have been very much in warfare and not very much in healing and regeneration. But the initial time that I spent here as Aurora was very in a focused but not officially organized way. Life circumstances presented the opportunities for me to heal and rehabilitate myself. So I did I did all of this as internal work. I did not have a coach or a doctor helping me through it. And I didn't have the languaging to be able to speak to the people around me and say like, this is what I'm going through and this is what I'm experiencing now. But initially, like I was not able to describe my experience and access my words very much. And I just focused on the physicality structure of like coordinating my body. And then after a couple of years of doing that, then I really like had to learn to integrate with human society. And I had to learn to speak and express myself somehow. And I also I had to get contact lenses to correct my vision because I could not see anything clearly. And then I had to learn like how to interpret space, like how close is something to me, how far away is something to me, in order to drive my car that was a very, very challenging thing to do. I had to relearn numbers or learn them as if for the first time. And so I initially started doing that work when I got one of my like first jobs. It was an entry-level position working in a small arts and crafts store. And my job was a very simple job of like something got unboxed from the manufacturer and I had to read the serial number on the thing and then put it on the shelf. And to me, this wasn't just merely boring retail work. I was like, okay, like I do not know how to do this. I'm not only from another planet, from another world. I don't know about commodification and work and money and all these things, but I need to do this in order to sustain myself here. And also like, I did not recognize the symbols of like what numbers were. So I had to really, really, really focus. Like this one is shaped kind of like this. And I have to find, like, imagine a hieroglyphic. Like you're like, I'm looking at this weird hieroglyphic symbol and I have to find the one that looks just like it. And I would play this matching up game. And as I was doing that, I was like rewiring my brain to be able to figure out ways to recognize numbers, but I still didn't have basic addition and subtraction yet. And then eventually I talked my way into getting a job as a custom framer in that same small store. And they totally didn't want to give me the job. And this is also like a little bit of personal sharing, but I hope you'll find this to be like a funny and uplifting anecdote. And it's New Jersey where I was doing this work too. And everyone's tough in New Jersey. I don't know if you've ever visited there. Like everyone in California talks about their feelings. People in New Jersey do not talk about their feelings and they're very tough. And so I'm like trying to get the job from this guy. And initially the supervisor had hired this other guy who was just like a complete flaming disaster. And he left after a week. And I came back and I'm like, look, I'm tough. I'm like, look, give me a chance. Like I can't be any worse than that guy who was total flaming disaster. And so the supervisor was like, okay, fine. Like show me your stuff. Cut this mat for me. And I'm like, why don't you show me how to do it? And he's like, okay, like first you measure this and then you measure this and then you put this 2-inch border around it. And he turned to me and he looked and took off his glasses. He said, do you even know what an inch is? And I'm being tough in New Jersey. And I'm like, why don't you give me the tutorial? All right. So then this is the thing in my life that was transformative. Jumping up twice per class. I wasn't prepared. He showed me a tape measure. He showed me on a ruler, like, this is what an inch is. Wait, this is what an inch is. And then there's 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch and 1/8 of an inch. And he showed me the numbers get bigger, the tape measure gets longer. And as the numbers get smaller, the tape measure gets smaller. And my brain was like, ding, ding, ding. I understand what these symbols are talking about now, because I could relate it to something that was spatial and volumetric. And that from then on, I started to develop my own inner envisionment imagination system. That it was before I painted all these paintings that are based on all these concentric circles. That was basically envisioning circles coming together as packets of energy, and everything is done in packets of 10. So I envisioned like, here's a packet of 10, and then half that size is a packet of 5, and half that size plus 2 is a packet of 7. And I started to be able to use my brain like Tetris to envision all these different things coming together. And that's how I started to do numbers. And that was actually the genesis of my artwork and everything that you see now. So I figured out ways in order to use my raw materials of my body and customize my healing to be able to be capacitated in this world. And then when you fast forward from that anecdote, 3 years later or 4 years later, I was in a different job position after lots of life experiences, but I was running a department, a framing department. And I would go through the entire process of like helping someone with their painting or their print or whatever. Then usually you give them the estimate. You have a whole conversation. That's actually when I started to learn that not everyone is telepathic, because I would be like, oh, like you want your picture framed? Like, do you want like this? And I'd send them a picture in their mind, or like this, or like this. And they wouldn't get it. And then I'd be like, let me get these samples off the wall. Like, do you want it to look like this? Or do you want it to like this? Like, I had to learn like, oh, like not everyone here is telepathic. Okay, that's cool. And then also when you do the recipe, it's like, okay, you want this frame and this mat and this glass and this much labor. Let me just do your estimate for you. And I previous to that would always like have a calculator, put in the numbers in the calculator, and then be like, ding, okay, 77.95 is your estimate for this job. And at a certain point in my job there, I recognized that I could just put the numbers together faster than the laborious nature of having to actually put it into the calculator, and that I could get that answer. And also, this is just personal sharing. I'm being very personal with you guys today. That was my favorite part of the job. Like, I actually didn't like that much the parts of my job where I had to do customer service, talk with people who sometimes had difficult attitudes or were just very difficult to integrate with, and felt sometimes like they were draining me or wasting my time, just in honesty. But the part of my job that I liked the most was like numbers. Ah, beautiful, comfortable, abstract numbers, and then adding them up in my head, and then figuring out, like all these different patterns to do with them. Yeah, that part ended up becoming my favorite part. And that also is part of the genesis of all of the work that I do now. Like, I was painting at a high level then, but at a certain point, I just wanted to go completely into making these abstract patterns, exploring numbers and the patterns of numbers and the miraculousness of how that describes the cosmos and the levels of truth that I'm connected to. And then, of course, that is my favorite part of the day and the most gratifying part of me. So this is all to share with you personally and to answer the person that asked in the YouTube comments. What does the rehab look like and how long does it take? Like, there are many people that might have brain injuries, and I know that supernatural healing is available to you. Like, all these flying rainbow lasagna maneuvers that I do, they're not just something that is for me, but no soup for you. Remember that Seinfeld episode? No, you can all have soup. Line up and I will definitely make sure that you get soup, or the recipe for soup is freely available to you that you can use for your own body. So if you have paralysis or aspects of your being that didn't necessarily function in the way that they're supposed to be, definitely superseding cancer as being a genetic disease, but also a disease of the narrative, story, and structure of your life, and so many other diseases and malformations of the body that can be healed and augmented through the use of flying rainbow lasagna, but it must be customized and tailored to you. So no one else could tell me how to figure out relating to numbers. It was critical integument that I had to figure out on my own. But once I got it, then that was what I needed. And then my mind was like, I get this now. I get it. I can do this. You'll find your own way. So whatever. And this is also like, I haven't been focusing on being a physical body healer of other people in this lifetime. It's very specific. Like, if you have a torn meniscus in your knee or your Achilles tendon, like, you have to have a specific healing of that in a specific way that doesn't relate to someone else that might have like fibromyalgia or a rotator cuff problem. Like, these are all different, unique things. And it's just, it's a bit overwhelming to me, actually, to approach the healing of the planet in that way. So I just approach it from the top down sense of sharing this very abstract information, and then knowing that the abstract information will percolate through and become personalized to each one of you in your healings. And also, there are a lot of wonderful people that are doing the actual physical work of, healing or doctoring in a positive way, ministering to your body in the way that it needs to, because sometimes you need physical stuff done to your body or physical substances to help your body too. But with this ascension that is going on, you have to start to get past the levels of the intellectual gatekeeper, the mind that has a belief system that says what we think and feel is or is not possible. And you get beyond that with these actual experienced realities, and you realize more is possible than you thought was possible. So people didn't used to run 100-mile marathons. Even the first guy that ran a 26-mile marathon, literally in ancient Greece at a place called Marathon, fell down, collapsed, and died. Running 26 miles at once was considered to be an enormous epic journey at that time in the world. But now people run the marathon together every time, every season in New York or Chicago or wherever it is, and they all run and nobody falls down and dies, because humanity has leveled up and recalibrated to that being within the envelope of possibilities. Now, running 100 miles seems like it is almost unfathomable, until this guy went down to live with the Tarahumara, who are in northern Mexico, indigenous people who run everywhere. And they don't have very good Nike shoes. They really mostly have flat kind of Huarache sandals that are made just out of like, a piece of leather kind of tied to the bottom of the foot. And they run everywhere, and the pregnant women run everywhere. Nobody has heart disease, nobody has cancer. It is just part of their lifestyle. It's not even something where people will say like, oh, they have good genetics. They do, but what that means is that their story state of themselves and their elders and their pregnant women is that everybody runs, and everybody shares that because your genes influence one another. You get it? So when you're in a sedentary world, your genes are influencing one another, and they're saying, yes, you will sit behind your computer screen for 20 years and you will develop cancer and die. That's a terrible narrative. I don't agree to that narrative. Cancel it, clear it out. The Tarahumara have a different narrative where they say, everybody runs every place. They don't run fast, but they run every place. And basically the upshoot of that is for them to run 100 miles, it is normal. And they actually took, so the person who was the researcher who researched them became hugely inspired. Now there are real like running clubs and organizations of many, many people who run 100-mile marathons, connected in friendship to one of them. And I'm always in so much recognition of their athleticism to be able to do that. She says the first couple of times to be able to run, it was not about the physical difficulties of such endurance. It was like about getting past the mind, that her mind didn't believe that she could run 100 miles, and that it took a couple of marathons for her to do it. Now she knows she can do it, but now she's like, I don't know, can I do it at this age? Like, she's not that old, but athletes always wonder. They're like, I did that when I was 24. Like, can I still do this now? It's always the mind. So we manifest tiny screws in order to prove to our mind that it can be done. We manifest healings and unlikelihoods and amazements in our life in order to prove to the mind that it can be done and that more is available than what you thought. That is literally the process of ascension. But in this world, we right now, over the past several years, have been under heavy bombardment of a form of artificial mind control that has been influencing your sensorium, your belief system, and even what you believe to be possible. Technosomatic disease means that literally a form of technology has crept inside of you under your skin, and it gave a bunch of people this sensation that they couldn't breathe, and they were afraid. And they also listened to the hypnotic triggers that were on the nightly news. That was the list of symptoms. Do you have this, this, and this? Well, you could die at any moment. You better go to the doctor. And then they went to the doctor for medical intervention, and many of them were treated through malpractice, and they actually did die. And it's very, very sad that that happened to them, but it was all non-natural. It was technosomatic. A technological stimulation gave them a sensation that their brain-mind perception manifested into reality, into a form of disease, which then ended up having mostly, again, a negative outcome due to medical malpractice and lack of support of the basic body structures. Let me just drink a little bit more of this. Marie, you made a beautiful comment before that I missed about superseding brain damage, bringing point A and point B together in my head. Marie says, the scarf folds and comes together. Thank you, Marie. You will be my scarf assistant. Pretend I've just pulled this out of your nose or whatever. This is the magical scarf that she is talking about. I pull it out with a flourish, out of your ear. The magicians usually pull something out of your ear. Yes. Point A to point B, instead of going across this whole long linear space, being able to bring those 2 points together. And that I do just a ton of that every day at all times. And that also, most of the time, I'm constantly jumping back and forth with the sun, which is what gives me enough energy to do this, jumping back and forth in my mind. Because it actually, the jumping back and forth does take a lot of energy. It's different than the plodding, slow, linear approach to life. So it definitely takes a lot. And also I believe in myself, and I've attained and sustained for so many years that I'm not afraid. So it's not like oh, like I ran a marathon, but like, am I going to be able to keep doing it? Can I keep reproducing these results? Yes. I can sustain it and I can reproduce it. And I've done it for 18 years. And then what I've done over the past, 2 or 3 years under incredible duress. So yes, lasagna continues even under duress, but I don't need to prove to myself that this can happen because I've already really experienced it. So, and also like in my approach, in my cosmic approach, there is no need for proof, but there is demonstration. So I don't need to prove that I'm trustworthy to you, but I can demonstrate it to you. And this is exactly the same approach that I had when, again, like 15 or 18 years ago, I worked a lot as a babysitter and as a nanny. And for the children that I worked with, some of them were beautiful, like indigo crystalline children with a ton of insight, magic, and very well adjusted. I was very happy to work with them. And then sometimes it was nanny 911, and I was working with children that were really in abusive households and experiencing so much skepticism and mistrust of the adults around them that I recognized that it was necessary for me first to establish just basic trust and that I am a safe adult that they can confide in. But I mean, nothing is more gratifying and amazing than when, like, it was after working with them for several months, but like, these little kids that I was nannying for, they're like, you need to like come. They invited me into their blanket fort is what I'm trying to say. They trusted me enough to invite me into their blanket fort. We watched cartoons and TV shows that are meaningful to them. They let me in on their inner world. And that was actually, all of this was part of my learning process about how to relate to humans who have been scarred or diminished in their development. And you can tell from my face, like, oh my goodness, like I still love and care about these children who are probably in college at this point or college age. So sending them, love and positivity on their journey. But I didn't expect them to trust me initially, and it took time for me to be able to build those levels of trust that they would let me into their inner world. And that is the same thing with anybody that comes to you as an adult in your woundedness and is like teacher, leader, guide, spiritual uplifter, anything like that, or a lifeguard who's going to pull you out of these choppy waters. Like, yeah, there's trust. There's trust that needs to be established, and you should ask for a coherent love vibe. And I think that that's totally appropriate. But I also want you to know, like, just like these children might never have met an adult who didn't abuse substances. Everyone in their life was, constantly drunk or on pills or something like that. They had never met someone who wasn't like that. They had never met someone whose car was clean, like didn't have a lot of like fast food wrappers or any of those things. Safe hugs, safe hug and touch. They may had never experienced anything like that. And these are like, not children growing up in war-torn Ukraine. These are like children in upstate New York from relatively affluent areas, but some of them have had such an impoverished emotional experience that they never had experienced what we would call like a mature, grounded, safe adult in their life. And I was the first one. So you, in your spiritual development, might never have interacted, other than me, with a spiritual being or level of consciousness that is the equivalent. Has their car clean and is not full of garbage, and is responsible and responsive, and safe, appropriate boundaries of touching and hugging and expressing love. Safe, appropriate boundaries. Because there are plenty of mind rapists and mind exploiters. And you know me, I'm always like, you want telepathic contact? Let's make sure that this is consensual here. I'm consensually connecting to you guys, because otherwise it's inappropriate, grooming, taking people in their vulnerability, reaching in when you're not supposed to, all these different things that are not what the higher dimensional levels are about. This relates to ascension, because my note says, what comes after ascension? So ascension is the process of, we're going to call it elevation, but I really want to get away from the whole ladder of operancy, elevator up, elevator down, because it is not a linear journey. So even though I paint the chakras as red is at the base of your spine, going all the way up to violet, and then white light and above, ding, ding, ding. And you think it's like one of those things like at the carnival, like, they give you a giant hammer and you have to kind of go like whack. And if you do it right, the thing goes all the way up. Ding, 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 you win. That is not what ascension is like. It is not a linear progression, and it is not a ladder or a staircase that you walk up and there's no way to compare how many rungs elevated you are on the ladder to someone else. Like, I'm on the 5th rung of ascension, you're only on the 3rd rung, and I'm so sorry, and you're so down, and I'm so up. It's not like that. Ascension is in accreting of light. So it might be a question, if you wanted to be able to measure or quantify it, of quantifying brightness. How bright are your lights, or how much light do you have? But light is information, intelligence, and sentience. And all of these things just become meaningless ego pissing contests that are not healthy. Ascension is not a game. It is not something that can be gamified, that it is a sacred process of unfoldment, just like lovemaking. Can you imagine if they gamified lovemaking? This is just how I'm trying to give you a sense of how ridiculous it is not to bring up inappropriate topics. But imagine if they were like trying to assess on the planet, like, who is having the best orgasm right now? Who's the most orgasmic right now? Like, this, it's ridiculous and kind of cringeworthy to think about it in that sense. Inappropriate, feels kind of yucky. That's what it would be like to gamify or commodify ascension. Who's gonna ascend first? Am I more ascended than you? How fast is your ascension going? And so many other aspects of either comparing, competing, or commodifying ascension. It's the antithesis of everything that it is. So it's not a linear journey. Anything that is requiring you to go ding, 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 ding is energy harvesting, which is also what I'm incensed and enraged by in this world. There is a huge amount of satanic energy harvesting, which is literally what the crown virus is. The thing that happened in 2019, the CV, crown virus. That is what this is. So as we are zeroing in on and reaching our levels of ascension, something has been standing right there. Like you're just about to open the doorway to God and come to this beautiful moment of divine union. And there's actually a boogeyman standing right there. It's like, hi, I'm here to FSHIT up. I'm not going to let this happen. And basically what it's been trying to do is to harvest the energy from the whole experience that you've been having up until this point, not only you, but our whole planet of many, many millennia. It's dark stuff. It's very distressing, but you should know about it so that, first of all, you don't blame yourself. Second of all, you don't fall into traps, pitfalls, ego traps, or other things like that. Third of all, you recognize and contextualize your own personal attainment amidst this very war-torn difficulty of the entirety of the planet herself trying to ascend and trying to give birth to new life and a new realm. And then also recognize that it must be superseded. The boogeyman standing in front of you and your attainment is meant to be resolved. And it is not just like, push him out of the side, like, get out of my way, I need to go, God. You know, you can do that, but then the boogeyman is just going to be like tapping its foot, like, ahem, ahem, like, you haven't actually resolved anything. And now I'm just going to try to, rain on your parade endlessly. So this fraught nature of what we're going through is 100% meant to be an opportunity to fully resolve and put to bed any of these things so that they don't keep on coming back, trying to mess up our journey or trying to hold us back or impede us in any ways. That boogeyman that's been up there trying to eat away at the crown and prevent us from reaching God. Guess what? This isn't the first time. It's not your first rodeo or whatever. You've tangoed before, all these different euphemisms. It has been prevalent in other dimensions and other planets. You've been other species, and it's done this type of thing. And you could actually look at this as a 100% concurrent, multi-layered reality, where every single one of these reality structures, like, I'm getting to this point, and then there's this thing. I'm getting to this point, and I'm almost there, and then there's this thing. I'm getting to the point, I'm almost there, and then there's this thing. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing in every single layer and level of reality. Here you look like a human. There you look like, I don't know, like a lion. There you look like a dragonfly. But it's all the same thing that's happening. You face it and resolve it now so that you don't have to keep on putting those vegetables to the side of your plate. Like, you have to eat the vegetables at a certain point. And people like their vegetables. I shouldn't say it in that way. have to resolve this thing so that it will stop traumatizing you, but resolving it not in the narcissistic way, because the thing will say, I'm a narcissist, heal me, me. And you're like, no, I'm busy ascending. And this is about me and my relationship with God, not about you. But it wants to say, use all of your ascension energy for me. And you have to say no. You got to put it to bed. And that's what everything that I teach about entropy is. So it's non-conversational. You're taking energy away from it. And essentially what you are doing is setting appropriate cosmic boundaries about who gets to use energy and who doesn't get to use energy. And you get to resolve it right now. So what happens? Ascension is not a linear experience, climbing up the ladder. And what happens after ascension? Because this satanic energy harvesting is like the training of a horse. The horse is going to pull a cart. So what you do is you train a horse, put a saddle on it, and you tell it, go forward, go forward. A dog team is better, because you're going to train a group of huskies. They're going to be your dog sledding team. And everything about the training of that dog is about putting a harness on it and then making it want to pull stuff forward, Those dogs are meant for pulling stuff forward. They're training you through these various different aberrances to ascend, go up, and perform all of these efforts, when really ascension is an effortless experience. But they've put boulders on your shoulders and they're like, now go up, now transcend, do this thing. They're harvesting you like sled dogs and making it so that you're going to do these unnatural movements of pushing forward, pulling forward to do the thing, when that's not what you're supposed to be doing. But it serves them and it serves their infrastructure and their power structure. And what you need to do is completely disengage from that and recognize that ascension is a profusion of light. It's too linear and it's too easy to think that it's like climbing a ladder going up. Ding! Hold on a second. Hold on a second, guys. I gotta mute you. It's like playing the bass guitar. Okay. I muted you just for the sake of the recording. Not going up in the sense of this linear training, which is what you've been trained for. It is ascension is really more of like a raising of your metabolism. It feels like getting revved up, like going faster and faster. So now I know I diverged wildly from my notes today. Thank you for letting me do that. And that's why I always send the notes. You're so welcome, Lisa. That's good. That's why I always send the notes so that you get everything, just in case I don't get all to it. Your chakras and how does that relate to the old-fashioned animation system known as a zoetrope. So these are chakras on your body. They're static sculptures of things that are actually spinning. So this is spinning here, this is spinning here, this is spinning here. And you have these all up and down your body. They act in a very similar way to what is known as a zoetrope. That is an old-fashioned form of animation that was utilized in the 1500s, maybe even earlier. It's like a barrel or a bucket that has regular slits cut in it at intervals, and it spins on a spindle. And you make cells, like animation cells, that can show like a horse running, different slightly incremental movements. And you put it on the inside of the barrel and you spin the barrel. And the slits go past your eye at a regular flickering rate that shows you these little flickering motions, and it makes it look like the horse is animated. Or I don't have a book here, like a little something like when you have a flip book. If you ever did this with your math book, if you were bored in math class in school, you make little stick figures and then you flip the edge. You kind of like, it's a flip book, literally. You flip the edges of the page and the little stick figures look like they're moving. This is a rudimentary form of animation. Animation is the sense of utilizing the anatomical tendency of our eyesight perception and our interpretation system in our brain to create integument and tie together moment to moment. That's a lot. You actually are not in an animated world. You're in a world of static, discrete moments separated by the Planck length. The Planck length is the smallest slice of crumb of cake that you can make and still call it cake. and the cake is the cake of reality and the cake of time. So it's not a minute, it's not a second, it's not a nanosecond. It is the tiniest increment that you can slice time into and still call it time. So the Planck length is the smallest unit of measurement possible. It is smaller than a proton, which is a subatomic particle, smaller than a proton by something like 10 to the 96th power. Very, 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 very tiny. The train cars of reality that I draw in this class all the time: moment, 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 moment. Each one of those moments is a slice of the reality cake, and they are separated by the Planck length. And in each one of those moments, you actually have a static image of reality. So if you were here in my studio and you saw me in person, I would appear to be moving. Like, I know, like I'm here on pixels, right? But I'm a real person and I drink real stuff and eat real food. And I would appear to be moving. But actually what's happening is, in one moment, my hands are like this. In one moment, my hands are like this. In one moment, my hands are like this. And it is your system of perception and interpretation that ties together me in these various different static moments to make it look like I have a fluid connection and like I'm actually moving. So you're not in a moving reality. You're actually in a static reality. And it is your own mind perception and interpretation that is the integument that ties together these discrete moments to make them appear as if they are a cohesive unit. In your eyesight, this is called persistence of vision. It is harnessed as a phenomenon in the use of motion pictures, where you have a flicker rate of 1 frame, 1/26. You have 26 frames in 1 second in order to make it appear as if there is a smooth motion in old-fashioned film-based movies that you see at the movie theater. Here in a computer screen or in video, the refresh rate is different. The refresh rate is actually a sweeping side to side that goes up and down your screen like this. So it's not as easy to use in analogy. And it also has a different impact on our human neurology. The whole reason I bring this to you is because you are the zoetrope. You are the wheel of life. And the rate at which your chakras are spinning has everything to do with the way that you are perceiving and tying together the discrete moments of reality. Ascension means getting your chakras spinning at optimum speed, at light speed. And you literally perceive and receive information and reality structure differently than you would before. So I guess a good example is the initial movies of like Charlie Chaplin, where everything looks herky-jerky and is not very well orchestrated, and then more modern high definition film technology, where there's everything in high definition, can see every dewdrop on every leaf, and the motions are very smooth and tied together very effectively. And this frame rate has everything to do with that. In the ascension process, the frame rate is about more than just being able to see my hand move along like this. It is about being able to perceive and process information. So now we're getting down to RAM. For in computer language, it's random access memory as opposed to ROM, which is read-only memory. It's your ability, your processing power. So we talk about a computer might have this much processing power. A giant supercomputer might have petaflops of processing power. It means how many processes can that computer system perform in one increment of time, in 1 second or whatever. And if you have a small computer, it can do like 5 things in a second, not that many. If you have a giant supercomputer or something with many processors daisy chained together, then they can process 10 million things in a second. So the higher the frame rate and the more information you're able to process in an increment of time, the richer the experience. Ascension in large part has to do with you accreting more light to who you are and what you are in the definition of self, and moving your chakras at a faster rate, like your bicycle. Okay, when you look at a bicycle that's not moving, you see every single spoke in the wheel, individual spokes. When the bicycle starts moving, they all blend together and it just becomes this thing that looks like a giant bicycle wheel. When you are moving at a particular rate in reality, you are receiving a certain amount of information and creating a certain reality structure with your intelligence and your intellectual capacitation, that is not the true description of reality, because you're not there yet. You have to raise your vibration, move at a faster rate, raise your energy metabolism to be able to perceive and receive information faster and more accurately in terms of explaining, describing, experiencing reality. And that includes direct manifestation. And that also includes seeing and knowing and feeling so much more than you presently see and know and feel, to the point that it could be totally overwhelming, where it's too much information. When they talk about TMI, it's usually something that is too personal, but too much information can also be sensory overwhelm, which is what I think a lot of autistic or on the spectrum described people are experiencing. They are non-neurotypical. They are highly capacitated. They're actually, many of them, able to process, and I relate to them, huge amounts and volumes of data very, very quickly and efficiently, but that they are not always able to process and effectively respond to their senses. Like, my socks are too tight, I'm sitting on this chair, someone is talking to me. Like, all of those things are sensory information that are part of processing, even at the same time that you're processing with your cognitive ability, various different things, like how many numbers you can add together, or patterning, or any other mental cognitive event. People also experience this when they're under the influence of some hallucinogenic molecules. So I haven't taken hallucinogenic molecules because I have like large portions missing of my brain. I have to take care of my brain. But some people do. And what they are doing in that moment is revving up. It is like training wheels for ascension experience, that you take this molecule, and then when you rev up and go faster, subjective time around you actually feels slower. And this is how you can comprehend William Blake's beautiful poem, I think it's Auguries of Innocence, to see eternity in an hour. That is the experience of being under the influence of one of these molecules, like DMT, LSD, psilocybin, any of these things. It revs up your chakras and your perception system. You're moving at a faster rate. Your zoetrope wheels are moving faster. You're moving faster. And then the rest of the world looks like it's moving slower. Like, you might even be like, wow, I'm watching that bird fly across the sky. It looks like it's moving in slow motion. It's not moving in slow motion. It's moving in regular motion. But what's happening is you can see and feel every feather, every wing movement. You can even see, like, there's a dust particle on its nose and it's flying by the sky, because you have more RAM and more processing power. And that is from having more light. And that is what the process of ascension is. So big, 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 big. What is ascension? It's not a linear progression. It's definitely not elevator up, elevator down. And it is not a behavioral control system of rewards and punishment, as I have railed against that, my extensive rant of the first hour of this presentation. It is instead an increase in your inner perception and spiritual metabolism, so that your inner wheels are moving at a faster rate. You perceive more information in each moment about reality. And that information sometimes is about something impersonal, like how many dust motes are floating through the sky, but sometimes it is personal. You might really, 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 really feel stuff from other people or from other organisms. Because here's a good example. I had my microsprouts outside in this little area next to our trash bins, where there is a palm tree, and the palm tree has these kind of large spiky things that were sticking out. They're dead branches, not alive branches. The alive branches are like 20 feet up in the air, but these are like dead branches. And every time I walked past, they were scratching me and poking me. So, I pulled them off. And then later I was sitting underneath that tree, and I was in a much more elevated state with my chakras moving a lot faster. And I was talking to the tree and perceiving it. And the tree was like, I did not like the way that you pulled off my dead branches over there. And then I had to be like, oh, like that's, and it felt like this, it felt like this, you get it? So I didn't have the perspective in my daily secular waking mundane consciousness. I was just like, ow, sharp, pointy things, this shouldn't be here, get this out of here. And then later I was able to go into a sense of true feeling, receiving at this much faster rate, which is where true telepathy resides and true empathy resides. And I was able to feel, I had to apologize to the tree. You'll feel stuff from other organisms and other people. And you might even have to take responsibility for inadvertently hurting or diminishing or damaging something that you're like, oops, I didn't mean to do that. I did not know what I was doing, that was hurting you. So that this is big stuff. Ascension is rejoining God and becoming unity consciousness. And you feel a lot of stuff from other people. And that this might be one of the most challenging or intimidating aspects of it, because you're going to feel other people's illnesses and diseases. It's one of the reasons why people are motivated to be healers, because you're like, ow, I can feel your pain. Ow, I can feel your pain. Let's do something about your pain. Then I can stop feeling your pain. And that's all appropriate. That is definitely because you start to feel I am you and you are me. And that I want to help you because that makes me feel better. And that's not just merely service to self, but with window dressing, that is really unity consciousness. And it is a justified, celebrated motivation. Like when I see that guy over there starving, I'm like, ow, that is hurting me. That guy is starving. Get that guy some food. And then I won't feel the ow of me hurting in response to these other. And then I will just say, other consciousnesses is the sentence I should have finished. So I'm Aurora and I'm telepathic and I'm empathic, and I've been at this level the whole entire time that I've been here for 18 years. And when they started doing the subcutaneous carrots, I felt the ow that all of these mind consciousnesses were feeling, and the ow of the planet has actually been some of the most painful experiences I've ever felt in being here over these past 2 years, as consciousness has been under assault. The genetic code has been under assault by these procedures that have been not mandated, but ordained into this world. And it's absolutely like if someone else is, doing something to their body and I am feeling the blowback or the repercussions from it, then it's totally appropriate for me to wish to rectify the experience. And because it's not, again, the interventionist falsehood would be like, your life is your own and hands off and you do your thing, you do you, right? You do you, go get injected, do whatever you want to do. Except it's not just you do you. If you're part of the cosmic band, part of the cosmic architecture, and you're polluting the genetic code by doing you, that's big. It's big stuff. And I'm not here to blame or to shame or to, in other ways, shake my finger of inadequacy at people that did subcutaneous injections, or their family members, or anybody in your life. Like I'm beyond that, because I know that there's some real hard asses out there that are like, they wouldn't even talk with people that got injected. They kind of sanitized their whole life away from people that had that experience. And I haven't. I've really been in the sense of you do you, and I respect your boundaries, but it really has to be recognized that when you're telepathic, when you're empathic, and when you are genetically connected on these levels of ascension, you can feel everything that's going on. And literally there are consciousness beings that feel our whole entire planet crying out. And it's not the same as just like, yes, on a distant planet, like a big toe is throbbing somewhere, like somebody stubbed their toe. It's really like giant, really loud, profound pain signals are radiating outward into the cosmic architecture, and screams that are so profound that it's enough to, like, tear the fabric of space-time and consciousness. We have a lot of responsible, responsive galactic citizens that are responding to that, because you're not in an isolated environment. You're very, very much connected to all of this. So what is ascension? It is an increase in your frame rate. It is an increase in your capacity to perceive and process information, which is light. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you leave the planet or leave existence or evanesce into non-physical being, although that is the end result of going through the wormhole. Like, you will transcend this level of experience. You will not die a physical death, but your consciousness will enter into more, I want to say vaulted ceilings, like more expansive realms, and have greater levels of experience. And that's super important. Like I am telling you, I promise you, like, this is not the definition of reality that you guys are in right now. There is a greater reality. And the way that you get through that greater reality is by ascending and by increasing your inner metabolism, your frame rate, your capacity to process information. And that incapacitation and low frame rate is really what's been preventing you from talking effectively to the star family, the lifeguards that are there to pull you out of the choppy waters. That it's totally recognized that you might not even be able to see and perceive them. Because when your frame rate goes up, you start to see not only every feather on a bird that's flying by, but you start to see all these different levels of existence or consciousness in all these different types of containers. And totally, you will have to redefine your definition of what it is to be alive, and what is an organism, what is your responsibility to an organism that you meet and interact with. But just know, like, there's a whole cosmic dance party that you guys are invited to. You're good enough to be there. You just have to get faster. You just have to get up to speed in order to be able to get there. And then, of course, everyone at the dance party is super conscientious, because what you do to another, you literally feel, and you're not self-destructive, and you're not a throbbing idiot, harming others. Melissa says, like nesting dolls. Yes, the Russian Matryoshka dolls. Melissa says, time can nest within time. Beautiful example. 2,000 years stretched out within one moment of time. Exactly what I was talking about. And Melissa goes on to say, they say a drop of DNA on the tip of your finger can hold the process somewhere like 300 petabytes of information. So that's a beautiful segue. Thank you for that. And that's a beautiful segue into you as an individuated node on the supercomputer, for lack of a better word, super processor might be a better word, of divine intelligence. I've told you many times, the sun and the stars is a larger neurological structure. All light everywhere is this cognitive impulse that is really the mind of God, or the mind of Christ. When I bring up Christ, I just want to wipe away all of these religious traumas so that you can really just hear and feel the truth of what I'm talking about. But it's challenging. But one day you're going to trust me and let me into your blanket fort and recognize what I'm talking to you about Christ. I mean, many of you have already done so. It's very, very beautiful. I'm using it as the analogy. It's just very difficult to talk to people about what Christ light is when I know that so many people have been religiously traumatized and abused. Meaning, just like if your parents who are drunk and stoned and on pills tell you, like, clean your room, you're not good enough, blah, blah, blah. Or they beat you with a wooden spoon and you internalize, like, I'm not good enough. Like, no, you're totally good enough. You know what's going on. Like, your parents are effed up and I'm the nanny and I'm here to tell you that. That's it. Like, your circumstances on this planet are effed up. Religious teachings in large part have traumatized you and defined you as an unworthy sinner or lowly participant. And I'm here to uplift you and redefine you out of that. And my face says it all. I can tell, you guys can see in my face, hopefully my non-algorithmically augmented face, that I'm just distressed at the sense of the false stories that have been told to you through cultural and religious trauma, and then very distressed at the false stories that are beamed at you through wetware and through the substrate of lies that are frequency lies. So the end result, the solution, is performing all these activities and anything you possibly can that increases your frame rate and increases your accretion of light. But again, these activities in truthfulness are meant to be effortless, or something that is part of a natural unfoldment. Just like real love making between partners is not like, let's read a handbook and study the Kama Sutra and make sure that we're doing all this like mechanics properly. It is a beautiful unfoldment. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. There is just being present, and being present to your partner and following the sensations that you follow that lead you towards this beautiful experience. That is what ascension is supposed to be. So I cannot write a handbook for ascension. It is unique to each individual. You must follow your sensations. My issue, distress, is that your sensations have been largely either blocked out or distracted by false sensations. There are false sensations. How do I know? Because I'm here, because I feel them. And that's how I can know that I have to warn you against them. False sensations of euphoria and elevation, making people think that they have reached levels of spiritual attainment that they haven't actually reached. Also, the flip side would be false sensations of being lost, being assaulted in a hell, being cut off from everyone that you love, being diminished and attacked by demons, which is equally as false, but which people can equally erroneously identify with. There's the false ascension. There's the false, we could call it false damnation, maybe. It's false techno hell and false techno heaven. You guys haven't experienced either of these things. I'd never wish for you to experience true hell. True hell would be if you lived in a world of pure light, but you could not access that light. Like it's like being the ultimate insatiable, hungry, thirsty, never at rest, never at peace, and no exit and nowhere to go. And that's literally what those putis or never lives, that's their existence. That's why Entropy and the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is literally my gift to them, gift of paradise, which is a state of non-being, because they don't actually have a pathway to come into being. So that, and that's also like why I'm not a traditionalist Christian, because the traditionalist Christian says like, no, you keep those demons in hell and then they get to suffer eternally. And I'm like, I actually don't agree with that, respectfully to Christians, Christianity, and the technology known as the Bible. I actually believe in a God that is so just and merciful that it will say, I don't want you to suffer endlessly. Let's have a solution, a place for you to go that's going to be the right spot for you. You're not going to harm others, nor will you experience harm. That is the solution for those of us who are in unity consciousness that gives us real peace. Because if there's a throbbing stubbed toe on planet Earth and we can feel that, we can definitely feel and sense if there's a bunch of very, very unhappy, trapped demons in the hell realms too. Their unrestfulness, their distress is part of the distress of the fabric of the cosmos, fabric of space, time, and consciousness. There's no way to get around that. So if you are requiring the endless suffering of, demons, low lives, never lives, then you are also requiring your own suffering as you perceive and recognize their suffering. Entropy, 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 and all of the true feeling. I hope you can hear it in my voice. Like, I never make this tawdry. I always make this very, very real. That is the doorway to paradise and peace for the entirety of consciousness. And that is my mission. It is what I created in 2001, and it is what I embody and exemplify. So my capacity to go from point A to point B and have faster thought structure, add things up without a calculator, that's one thing. But that's like using supercomputer like a paperweight. It's like the smallest thing that you can do with it. The greatest thing that I can do, or that anyone who participates with Flying Rainbow Lasagna can do, is to send those unrestful, unresolved consciousness aspects to entropy, thereby taking away the suffering of all of them, all of us, and really healing and rectifying the entire fabric of the cosmos. That is what this ascension is. As a boogeyman stands in front of you and your love of your life and your joyous divine reunion with God, you don't throw that boogeyman aside and be like, get out of my way, I'm here to hug God. Like, you are, and that's beautiful. But you say, let's put that boogeyman in entropy, and also entropy for all of the boogeyman's own thought creations and thought infrastructure. All of it goes to entropy. And that way, this ascension turns into what it's really supposed to be, which is, I guess the word I'm looking for is relaxed, unself-conscious, and unstudied. Like, that's what real partnership and lovemaking is in the physical realm of idealism. And I recognize not everybody is into those levels, but how I think about and portray it to others, unself-conscious. And that's what I also mean by the cosmic dance party. Like, you don't have to worry about whether your eyeliner is running or whether you are, perfectly, whether your hair is done perfectly. To be fully accepted in the moment of the person who you are is also part of this entry into the faster frame rate world of what it is to be ascended. And when you're moving at that faster rate, there's other stuff that's moving at that faster rate too. So you're not alone. It's not like, oh, like, see you Earth losers, see ya, as you kind of speed away, like out the window. And then you find yourself completely alone. No, actually, you find yourself with a whole beautiful family of consciousness that reunites with you. It is beautiful reuniting with your true family. And that is everything that you came from that has predated this experience of ancient Atlantis, Lemuria, Orion Wars, everything, and all of the turmoil that has percolated down to this moment that we are in right now. So this moment of ascension, which is not just a moment, but a cosmic moment or an unfolding process, is hugely significant to you in terms of your soul's development. It is a big deal. And that's why they took out the heavy artillery in terms of trying to F it up. It's a big deal. It's big. And they put a lot of inhibitors in front of you and surrounded this whole entire planet and weaponized so many things that should be our support system. And we are doing it anyway. It is definitely inevitable. And then I'm going to open the floor to any questions or comments. Then I'm going to go sun gaze if there's a tiny amount of sun. But you must also know that you have an enormous support system in, let's just call it the ineffable truthfulness of the world of pure light. That's pure light, not false light, not any of these frequency assaults that you have endured for so long. And also when you get exposed to true light, it's like when you have if anybody only fed you like sawdust, and then they told you like, this is cake. And you're like, like it's kind of horrible and hurts my mouth to eat. And then you get real cake. And the first, can you imagine, can you taste it with me with your taste buds? It's yellow cake and it has white icing and it's perfectly moist and it's got strawberry filling. And you're like, this is cake, all right? That feeling in your mouth, that's what it's like when you find the true light of Christ. That's what it is like. Like, that's truth. I know it. I feel it. There's no imposter. There's no way they can fake it. So all that they can do is they can starve you of that true light to the point where you can't even calibrate that and know that it exists, and then feed you sawdust and you'll be like, this sawdust is really great. But as soon as you taste what the real food tastes like, then you're never going to be fooled. You're never going to be fooled. This is how I have endured so much over these past 2 years of really being at war with this negative presence. I'm like, I know what true Christ is, and that's not true Christ. Like, they keep trying to give me sawdust. I'm like, no, really, no. I know what it's supposed to be like. So I know what the religious traumatization is. I know what the pitfalls are. I know what the manipulations are. I definitely know what the substrate of lies feels like, because it's like frying your pineal gland, not uplifting you through the nourishment of divine consciousness. Maybe divine consciousness might be a better word for me to use than Christ consciousness, but it is a very pure, very nourishing, amazingly pleasant experience of being nourished and guided and uplifted by that connection, by that divine union. It is in no way a diminishment. Like, the religious trauma is like, like your mom and dad are going to like beat you and send you to your room. Like, it's the expectation that you're going to be judged. You're going to be like, you're a sinner. Here are all the list of the bad things that you've done wrong. Like, now I will beat you. It is not like that. And I'm very, very sorry if that is what your expectation of this level of divine union is, because it is not that at all. There's very much taking responsibility for what you've experienced, but not judgment, shame, blame, and rejection. None of that. And you're worthy right now in this moment. If they wanted to turn on the light switch right now, and for you to experience that divine light of consciousness, you're ready for it right now in this moment. You're ready for cake. You're ready for the best of what God, the divine presence, has to offer. Melissa says, before I leave early, I will watch answer later. Yeah, we understand if you have to go, and I ran a little bit late today. I wanted to ask, what are your thoughts concerning the idea that electrons are a form of cymatics, a sort of evidence of sound potentials creating sustaining matter? Thank you very much. Much love. Love back to you. Great question. You have a great mind. I always appreciate you as a student so much, Melissa. So there's definitely a connection to the sense of electrons, like these tiny, they are matter, they do have mass, tiny building blocks of matter that also carry electrical charge, which is something that does not have mass, as being connected to sound And so much of, like, maybe a better way of saying it is waveform potentials. We, with our five senses predilections, tend to categorize things as sound. Like, these are the compression waves that I can hear with my ear, equals sound. These are the optical waves that I can see with my eyes, equals light. But the most neutral languaging is to call them waveform presences. And the answer is yes. The presence of, or the coalescence of electrons in the subatomic architecture structure is the end result of the overlappingness of waveform presences. Matter is literally created by the overlappingness of waveform presences. And because once you comprehend, like, it is like just like comprehending this shape and the basics and profundity of this on any level, you can then apply those insights to that shape as it is in other circumstances, the very tiny and the very, very large. So comprehending the paintings that I make, which are paintings all about these waveforms and the way that they're allowed to fit together. Once you do that, then you are able to effectively apply that to your recognition and understanding, comprehension of how reality, physical matter, is structured as the end result of harmonically overlapping, non-coincidentally coinciding waveforms. So the harmonic structure of the cosmos, so cymatics. Cymatics is sound structure, and that sound structure is like gravitational waves that move through the areas of the cosmos that have tons of gas and particles and dust that are going to organize those into the planetary nebula, pardon me, becomes a star. That's cymatics. Giant, intelligent waveform presences on the scale of a galaxy that move through the entirety of space-time and consciousness, organizing matter until it coalesces and becomes the birth of a star. And in the same exact way, waveform presences that we can perceive as sound or even as optical waves, come together and create matter known as electrons. And these are like definitely what would be considered secrets of the cosmos and how you manifest and how you make stuff. Just intellectualizing it isn't enough. So this is the journey that everyone is on. Like I talked about 0 point journey, where people are saying, like, I want to research 0 point, and I want to research Rodin coils and all of these different phenomena of the torus and the magnetic shape of magnetic phenomena that are contained within the torus to make electricity 3 cents cheaper. Like, that's cool. But what happens? I need to drink water soon. In fact, hold on one moment. Thank you for the brief pause. On the journey of developing and comprehending the physical mechanical architecture that it would take to create these different toroidal structures that create 0 point energy, you realize that you have a very, very different value system and goal. That you thought, like, I thought I wanted to make electricity 3 cents cheaper, or I thought I wanted this, or I thought I wanted that. But what I really want is freedom and spiritual attainment. And this is exactly like that movie Contact, that's based on the book from Carl Sagan, that Earth is gifted with these plans from a higher dimensional society. These scientists have to work together in order to decipher what the blueprints actually are. When they put it together, they think that they're putting together a blueprint that is like flying into outer space, but then it actually ends up being a consciousness transportation design vehicle, and something very, very different happens. But initially they had to put together all of their efforts as if they were building a physical, mechanical, clank, clank metal spaceship, because the working togetherness was a part of their evolution and their journey. For a lot of people who are engineering, electrical, scientific, mechanically inclined, they're on this journey that is actually a journey of spiritual attainment, where they think, I need to create like a perpetual motion machine, or I need to create 0 point energy, or I need to create a thing that can manifest matter, a replicator device. I'm going to make food or water or seeds, feed the world. And on the journey of investigating or trying to invent that architecture, what happens is the person achieves spiritual attainment and they realize, I don't need to build the thing. I don't need to build the mechanism. But the mechanism was the shiny carrot or the rabbit that I chased down the rack as I am on my journey of spiritual attainment. Pedro says, in the archive video, it will look like you just manifested the glass. Oh, I love that. That would be fantastic to just do some fancy Zoom magic green screening and then be like, and then I also manifest my own water. Wouldn't that be so convenient, guys, if I could just be like, I'm a bit thirsty. I think I'll just manifest this. Or also feeling a bit hungry and here's a cookie. And then also bars of gold. No, but I'm joking because everybody has always asked me that. Like, Aurora, you're flying rainbow lasagna. Why don't you just flying rainbow lasagna gold into existence? And here's a very, very real answer to that. The creation of matter, the birth of matter, is a profound experience. Like the birth of a baby is a profound experience. You don't do this type of stuff just to solve a secular, ordinary, mundane problem, even though I just told you about wheelbarrows and tiny screws. But I started to think about that. I thought to myself, why did the tiny screw manifest for me? Because you know something, I could have gotten in my car, driven on 20 miles or so, get to Home Depot, have them measure the little thing that I need, get the screw of the right size, drive back home, blah, blah, blah. And I realized that there was something about the immediacy and the manifestation that allowed me to still be, oh, let me just close my door. To still be on the right timeline. The most precious and most valuable thing you can possibly do is stay on the right timeline. So if for me, if driving to Home Depot and interrupting my day at that moment was not on the right timeline and manifesting a tiny screw immediately kept me on my right timeline, that is one reason why it would be done. And also, you know, the shoring up of my belief system of what it is possible to do. Same thing with Angèle manifesting her wheelbarrow. Maybe it would have just been an entirely long, choreful thing for her to actually drive to the hardware store, buy the wheelbarrow, blah, blah. And then there are definite experiences that I've had. I won't share all of them with you, but sometimes when resources were not available, for whatever reason, if food, drink, medicine, or some other vital substance were not available, and I were able to be sustained through these manifestation practices, it is for the correct purposes. So incorrect purposes would be for ego purposes. If I was like, me, I want you to look at me and give me attention. Like when I play my music and make my artwork, like that's appropriate ego stuff. But for spiritual lovemaking stuff, it's not necessarily appropriate to be like, I want to manifest this thing in order to show it to other people, and then they will look at me and appreciate me. It's just not the proper motivation. But to manifest something to shore up someone else's spiritual belief is appropriate. I haven't shared this with you. This is someone else shared their medicine story with me about a journey that they had to an ashram in, I call it the Far East, but if you live in India, it's just your home, the continent of India. And she worked with or studied as a disciple of a person who was really achieving spiritual attainment there, who was able to manifest things. And they manifested a gem in front of her and gave her that gem. She did not take that gem and bring it to the pawn shop and sell it in order to be able to receive thousands of dollars. She keeps it as a treasured keepsake. It showed her what was possible for a human being to do beyond the levels of rationalism or skepticism, and continues to inform her life. She's like, if that guy could do that, she ended up having like terrible dysentery in India, had to come home. Like she didn't live there. It was a part of her life, but it was a transformative experience that made her envision the greatness of what we can do, open doors in her mind. That's first of all worth more than however many thousands of dollars you can sell something for at a pawn shop or whatever. But also that's magical matter. That is magical matter. You do not manifest magical matter so that you can then go and do something very mundane with it, like sell it at the pawn shop. So let's say you can manifest gems or gold or whatever it is. You're like, okay, time for me to bend the fabric of space, time, and consciousness and rewrite the rules of reality. And literally, like you're taking ingredients from 10,000 years ago, 20,000 years in the future, changing the entire scarf folding of reality in order to make that gem, and then be like, go bring it to the guy at the pawn shop. He's like, $5. You need $5 for that. You're like, okay, great. Like that's it's exploitation and hugely irresponsible about the fabric of space, time, and reality. So we need to get away from the commodification structure. If we're going to do stuff like that, I don't commodify my manifestations, and I have been manifesting. I've been manifesting the entire time that I've been here. And you know what? I've been manifesting the opportunity for planetary ascension in freedom. It is more valuable to you than bars of gold. It is more valuable. Spiritual attainment and true freedom is more valuable to you than any amount of apples and bananas and pears that you could buy at the store for physical sustenance, or even land and a house that you can live on for the rest of your physical days. It's more important than a golden toilet seat to sit on while you make your doo-doos. Spiritual attainment. So I have been doing my utmost every time I dance my flying rainbow lasagna dance to manifest into reality the circumstances, events, people, places, things, and objects and their interactions that will bring forward spiritual attainment. This that I paint to and point to all the time. That is what Superman uses Superman's powers for. Superman doesn't just like fly to the grocery store to save some gas. Superman flies to like save someone who's trapped under a building. Pedro says, gotta go, love lasagna, manifesting a world healing, healed. Love you very much, Pedro. Thank you for being here and always for your lightheartedness and positivity. So yes, our value system in terms of gaining our ascension powers, empowerment, and manifestation and abilities, our value system must change, shift, and grow. Here's what you should manifest and use your ascension energies for. Healing, rectifying the physical body. You want to not only stay alive, but you want to stay alive in your greatest levels of capacitation, athleticism, health, rejuvenation, and renewal. And rejuvenation refers to what you are able to perform and do with your body. So it doesn't necessarily, I'm just trying to say, like, you can have gray hair. It's not only about your appearance. I have gray hair, but I put dye on it. But you want to be able to do pull-ups, like, you know, these exercises. You can do them. You are not your age. It is about your ability level and about what you can do with your body. You want to manifest states of healing, athleticism, and attainment in your physical body and in your metabolism of your body and in your cognitive processes. Yes, you want to manifest your healing. You want to manifest the healing, health, and renewal of the environment around you. Plants, animals, trees, loved ones like my dog who's in her dog bed down there. Yes, we want to positively influence the health and well-being of everything that we are connected to, including the cognitive processes and how we share information. Light. You become a part of an ecosystem of light where you're sharing light, receiving it, and sending it out to others. This is what the real healing is, and what we want to do with our manifestation abilities. So it's very, very different than being like, I want to manifest a physical object. Like, you can buy this physical object in the store. But I know I talked about manifesting things, but I don't want to be drawing you astray by talking about that. But you can manifest healing in your body. The manifesting of the things are the things that speak to the intellectual gatekeeper to get you to be like, I could manifest things like, you know, whatever, say your toenail fell off your pinky toe. Like, if I can manifest a tiny screw, maybe I can manifest my toenail growing back. You can. Maybe you can manifest something deeper, like whatever, you know, like your spine being healed, or other injuries that would consider to be medically, scientifically impossible. And these things are also not available in stores. I joke about that, like this is a commercial. Offer not available in stores. You can buy tiny screws and you can buy wheelbarrows in stores, but the things that are truly the most precious to us cannot buy in stores. They are about health and community and light and spiritual attainment and having a faster frame rate and being able to know and sense and be more. That's what you want to manifest. And from doing those things, you manifest the levels of comfort and ease that you think that money will manifest for you. So everyone's like, manifest some gold. And then with the gold, you can buy the stuff that you need. But what you really need is spiritual attainment, not gold. And then you also need to manifest and experience comfort and ease, which is the antithesis of what we've experienced in spiritual warfare for the past several years. So you want to get into states of relaxation, unself-consciousness, and that's when you can really groove. And that's when you can really start to make music, start to make reality, start to make events happen. amazing synchronicities, amazing, magical, miraculous events in your life, things that are not available in stores. It's just about time for me to go sun gaze. Open the floor to any questions, comments, or anything else that a person might like to say or share, including questions or comments about manifesting and what ascension is. And I'll scroll quickly to make sure I sent out the notes, but just to make sure if I'm getting, yeah, I got that. Oh, ascended masters, because I talk about ascended masters and who they are and who we are. Oh, Tricia says, source already did manifest gold of us. I love that. Yes, I think I know what you're talking about. Basic on fast on ascended masters, because there's a lot of astral tricksters who pretend to be ascended masters, and they're not really ascended masters. So ascended masters have ascended, they have increased their frame rate. And when you get to go faster and you are more at the speed of light, you will then be able to interact and talk with them very, very effectively. Right now, there's a lot of synthetic telepathy, poop crapola, that makes it very, very difficult to talk with ascended masters. If someone comes up to you in your mind or in your dreams and says, "Hi, I'm an ascended master. My name is blah, blah, blah." You're going to have to be like, do you have a coherent love vibration? Can I feel love from you? Do you have a unique energy signature so that everything that you say is that kind of like attributable to you, so I know whether you're a liar or whether you're trustworthy? And if they can't do these things, and you can't be in a conversation with them, because there's tons of astral imposters. So don't get fooled by sawdust that comes along and announces itself and says, "I'm cake, eat me." You have to be skeptical in this time and place. So I'm being very protective of you guys in your process of planetary and personal ascension, because I don't want you to, don't get fooled again. Don't want you to get fooled by false self-proclaimed ascended masters. But I will tell you that there is definitely a beautiful family. Call it coherent light family. They've got their chakras spinning. They've got their light focused in laser-like fashions. They see and perceive all time. They are literally my family. It's where I come from. They are my support system. And also I give to them. It's reciprocal. They support me and I support them. And it is mutualism is one word for it, and love is another word for it. And you should, just as with me, create a relationship of trust. If you're going to have conversations with ascended masters or spirit guides, they have to have a relationship of trust where they demonstrate behaviorally that they are trustworthy. And in many ways at this point on the journey, that might be just a huge distraction. It might be better to focus on God, the abstraction, as opposed to the personified personality of an ascended master, who would be like a ray or an outgrowth or a fractal shard of the largest divine presence that we know as God. So ascended masters are for real. Don't get fooled by imposters. Sorry. Sorry, I was muted. I'm recording. My dog is loud. I don't want to end on such a loud note. Cheeky, no, stop. Sorry for the loud barking. Yeah, that was a good relax. Now Cheeky's feeling a lot better. Don't get distracted by ascended masters because of their personality, because that would be like getting distracted by having a conversation with John Coltrane or Mozart, who are amazing musicians in their own right, but you got to focus on your own musical journey, because one day you will be at the level of attainment of Mozart, but you get there by being 100% yourself, not trying to imitate others. So really important. The ascended masters love us, and they definitely want to help us and guide us on our journey, but you also have to be 100% focused with laser-like precision on your own divine spiritual connection and attainment. And sometimes that lovemaking is private, without any voyeurs, without Mozart or John Coltrane watching you or thinking about them. You got it. Cheeky is getting harmony. Thank you very much. We needed it. We needed it. I told you guys Cheeky was struggling a lot because we've had so much rain, not that much outside walkies time, not that good of digestion, feeling very upset and agitated sometimes. So thank you for understanding it. Actually, there's a break in the clouds, I think that it's time for me to wrap up and be able to take Cheeky outside to get a little bit of sunshine. Thank you for understanding. And thank you for, so both Cheeky and I have been struggling, but found this class to be wonderfully uplifting. Thank you for allowing me my personal sharing and the rants in the beginning. Lisa says, thank you for everything. You're so welcome. Thank you for being here. Very, very pleased to have you with us in this class. And yeah, I'm always so pleased. I know I'm at the come as you are party. I can be my true self here. Charlie B says, thank you for being here and for all your sharing. You're very welcome. And I really, really appreciate the positive, welcoming energy that you give to me. You guys know in the first couple of years when I was here as Aurora, it was very, very difficult for me. And I didn't know any humans like you guys are. I didn't know anyone that I could share myself with authentically, people who would know me or see me on my journey or comprehend who I was and what I had been through. Feel so, so, so lucky. And I'm in so much gratitude that I have beautiful group of people, you guys, who see me as a person, also hear the things that I'm here to teach and bring to you in terms of information. And just so very lucky to have this community. Very, very lucky and pleased to have you as community members here. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. I'm going to end the recording right now.